All right, we're live. We're live. What's going on, people? We are coming to you on a Sunday because we're bored to death and have nothing to do. So we're talking about these cases, and we're like, you know what? Why not go live and talk to him with you? Hmm. Obviously, you guys know Eric. We may have some more people come inside here to yell at us and talk about these stories, but it is what it is, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. We're doing it on two channels. Our dual channel, Laid Back Law, and the, of course, illustrious Nate the Lawyer channel.
Ah,
Please consider subscribing to Laid Back Law if you like this kind of thing. We're sort of giving a little bit of a sampler dip again to bring some people over to find out. Hey, we do this sort of thing from time to time.
yes. Hmm. So let me make sure I put the caveats out here now. I know not everybody's going to love what we say. I understand. If you can't take some pushback on the things that you say, this may not be the place for you because we're going to agree with a lot of stuff. We're going to disagree, but it's looking at it from this perspective. So, all right. So, first thing, we're going to get into the Carmelo Anthony case. Carmelo Anthony case. Well, so just to put everybody on the same page, what happens with that case is Carmelo Anthony is the black teen who was at a school track meet. Oh, here comes Uncivil. Uncivil, what's going on, brother?
Hey
Hey,
guys,
Kurt.
how you doing?
Hey, hey.
Nothing much, nothing much.
On
We
the road?
are. He said, "Oh, you're on the road, Kurt."
Yes, I am. I am in the great state of South Carolina visiting my parents. They say
Oh,
hi.
nice. Nice.
Well, we were literally just getting into the facts of the Carmelo Anthony case. So, for those of you know, Carmelo Anthony was a teen. He went to a track meet. Track meet was a school event. At the school event, there were the two. It started raining. Allegedly, it started raining. He runs under one of the closest tent. The closest tent happens to be with the school that they were competing against. The person from the school they were competing against asked him to leave. He didn't want to leave. The kid allegedly put his arm on Carmelo to force him to leave. Carmelo pulled out a knife and stabbed him. There was Carmelo actually threatened him right before. He threatened him. He was like, before he's like, if you touch me again and something like this happens. And obviously he touched him and he was stabbed. So
Wasn't there a seat involved? Like Carmelo Anthony was sitting in the guy's chair or something, and just to add a little bit to it. And he was
well,
like,
he was sitting in the area and
okay.
from my understanding, what the brother was saying was that obviously you guys have your personal items there. You don't know who this kid is. So he comes in, he's in that particular area. So, they were concerned about, the stuff for their safety stuff. Not saying he was a thief or anything, but I think anybody would be a little concerned, especially if you had like your bag and stuff there. Some stranger was just there. So essentially that's the case in a nutshell. I don't know if you guys want to add anything to it, but
No?
Yeah, as memory serves, they had like a tent up, like one of those pop-up tents in
yeah.
the bleachers for like their team. So they had brought some portable shelter, and Carmelo had sought the shelter under their team's tent. Um, and so like they kind of objected because it was for them and their team, and he wasn't part of their team, and that's kind of what started the fight, as memory serves.
Let me show. So this is the tent I think you're talking about. This tent right here.
Yeah,
They were
yeah, it's
under
like one of
that
those
tent.
10 by 10 kind of things.
Oh,
Yeah.
like a canopy then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Here's a wider view of it. So this is where the stabbing happened at. So
Well, that is relevant if there's a limited amount of space inside of the shelter. Yeah,
when it was
could
raining,
be. Right.
So obviously this case, what it comes down to, I think when it comes down to, it's a couple of things. Number one, Carmelo Anthony's making a self-defense claim. He's saying that this was self-defense. He felt his life was in danger and that he was going to suffer serious physical injury when he was allegedly attacked by these two people. So while the other side is saying that this was murder in the second degree, essentially he brought a gun to a fist fight, and this is what,
Or even a knife.
a knife to a fist fight, and he was being unreasonable when he employed it. Now I want to make it, before we get into the full story here. I want to go over in Texas, what we're looking at for self-defense. We're looking at essentially 6 elements. We're looking for first innocence, right? The person can't be the initial aggressor. And here, Carmelo Anthony, no one suggested he was the initial aggressor. Everyone says that he was responding to a likely assault. Would that be fair?
Was it a likely assault or just a, hey, dude, what are you doing here?
The initial aggressor is a bit vague.
Because remember from my understanding, the white kid grabbed Carmelo.
Austin Metcalf?
Yeah, Metcalf. So that's what I was thinking could be considered the initial aggressor.
Now I have a question too, because when you know, it's now we're gonna get into subjectivity here.
Yeah.
What is a grab and what is a nudge and what is a hey man? I mean, to what degree? I mean, there could be all the way to tackling.
When I'm talking about initial aggressor,
come on, man. Yeah, get up, man.
Well, when I talk about like an initial aggressor, I'm talking about, let's say if somebody walks up to you and starts screaming at you and starts saying, "Yo," and starts pull their hand back like they're going to hit you.
That's fair.
That would be the initial. But it would be an initial aggression, right? And here again, because we stated the facts earlier, Carmelo Anthony's calm and he's sitting under a tent and he's in a place where he's not supposed to be, right? That's their tent. Right. He's approached by these guys and says, "You got to move. You got to move. If you don't," and then do you have the, if you put your hands on me, watch what happens. Now, some people will say the threat of if you put your hands on me, see what happens, it would make him the initial aggressor. Others would say the fact that when the person actually grabbed him would make that person an initial aggressor. So what I'm saying is
words alone won't be considered sufficient in Texas. So you're looking for some sort of physicality. So yeah, the words alone won't make you initial aggressor, but if he was pushed or prodded or touched before he broke out his deadly weapon, that might make the person in the tent the initial aggressor. And that might be important because it leads to potential arguments for imperfect self-defense, which could be relevant in sentencing.
Yeah.
And for people saying about the testimony, obviously the testimony isn't yet complete. We've heard from some of the testimony, but there's still obviously some question of fact as to exactly who did what to whom and when, and in exactly what order. So the testimony so far has provided part of that picture, but it's not yet complete. So I think it's still a bit of an open question.
The prosecution did rest. And what I'll do is I have the video of some of the details of the prosecution's case. We'll play it. But what I'm just doing now is we're just going over kind of what we remember from the case. So the, like, for instance, with the innocence, eminence has got to be immediate. Proportionality, level of force used. I think we also have to consider
proportionality is probably the biggest question of all, right? And no matter how you break it down, whether it was an appropriate response or otherwise to what happened, I would think proportionality is probably the largest factor of the whole thing.
Yeah, because I think the proportionality is, again, that's what we were talking about earlier, bringing a knife to a fist fight. In Texas is a stand your ground.
If it's even a fist fight, again, that's why I said, it's like a nudge or a punch or, did he try to punch him before he was stabbed, or did the stab, the timing of stuff, comes into play.
Yeah. So, but again, that would lead all into proportionality. And also too, the legal questions change with proportionality versus just common self-defense where somebody's punching you and you're in a fight, versus using deadly physical force. So physical force versus deadly physical force. Because deadly physical force, now you need a couple of different things. Now you need to be responding to a deadly physical force threat. So punching and slapping generally alone wouldn't be necessary. Where if you're talking about just a regular plain old physical force where somebody punches you, you can punch them back and so forth. So
I don't know if this is relevant. You both can help me out with this. What are the laws in Texas about bringing a knife to school grounds?
Yeah,
like that.
I don't really think that particularly is relevant, because that would be a separate charge, right?
Yeah.
So you see this sometimes with felon in possession cases, because it's been known to happen. You have a person who's been declared to be a felon, so they're not allowed to have a firearm. For whatever combination of reasons they do, they act in legitimate self-defense. So there are those cases, right? The felon who's not allowed to have a firearm, but he does, he uses the firearm in self-defense. So what happens? Well, he's acquitted of the murder because he has a valid self-defense. Now, he might be charged with the possession of the firearm, but it doesn't impact the analysis of the murder.
But
So,
would it
not,
it factor, Kurt, if he's convicted in the sentencing? You know, like going the other way, like how do I put it? I see what you're saying on the defense, and I know about the self-defense aspect, and that makes total sense. Like, yeah, okay, we get that, and we could charge him with a weapons charge, sure. But what about if the weapons charge now, let's say Karmelo is convicted, does that enhance the penalty versus otherwise, or is it still Mox Nix?
No, yeah, I think they're just kind of separate issues. Whether he can be charged with having the knife or on school grounds or not is a separate issue.
Because I was thinking of
the murder case.
You know, they love having
so to
weapons
me,
enhancements.
Issues.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so let me just go over the last two. So proportionality is you can only use the force that's used against you or limited. Avoidance is really you don't have that here because this is a stand your ground state. And then the catch-all is reasonableness. Everything you do, if you're innocent, eminence, all that stuff is really judged through the guise of reason. Would a reasonable person standing in your shoes do it? And if you're an officer, it would be would a reasonable officer standing in your shoes doing it? So let me play right now. I'm going to play the where the case is at right now from local news, and and just tell me when to stop, and we'll stop it when things are popped.
Court was in session today in the murder trial of Karmelo Anthony. Anthony is accused of killing 17-year-old Austin Metcalf at a Frisco track meet last year. Prosecutors rested their case this afternoon, so the defense began calling witnesses. Cameras are not allowed in the courtroom, but Fox 4's Alex Boyer was there today and picks up the story from there.
You know, it's been a very long week for everyone involved in this case. The judge chose to hold another full day of testimony on a Saturday. I can tell you that a key witness burst into tears on the witness stand, and the prosecution rested its case just before 3 p.m., calling fewer witnesses than expected. Now it's the defense's turn to present its case. Another emotional day of testimony inside the Collin County courtroom where 19-year-old Karmelo.
Is the prosecution resting as a strategy to leave it on the jury's mind for the weekend, so they have to think it over, like, oh, this guy looks guilty or whatever, to help strategically? I'm just asking as a prosecutor, Nate, or, is that part of the strategy?
I think it could be, but I think generally with these cases you don't want overkill. Right, because then you can make it like so sometimes if you've made your point, then why am I going to continue on Monday or so forth and so forth? And it's better to leave on a high note. So again, I don't know if this is a strategy in this particular instance, but I'm assuming that that they just they said, hey, we only have a couple more witnesses left, and then we'll rest, and the judge said, okay, we'll do it Saturday. What do you think, Kurt?
Yeah, I mean, with it on Saturday, that's less a factor because there's not a lot of downtime. So I don't think you would make a strategic call for like, I'm going to get them a day to think about it. That just doesn't seem like that much of a factor to my mind.
And that actually cuts both ways too, because it gives you better data to prepare. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, because if you had to go right then, you have to go kind of what you have, but if you have a weekend to kind of prepare for it gives you some more time to hone your strategy. But let's finish off with this.
On trial for the murder of 17-year-old Austin Metcalf.
Eddie immediately starts crying. The attorney goes up there and gives him Kleenex.
Court TV anchor Cody Thomas has been inside the courtroom watching the testimony. Thomas is talking about 18-year-old Eddie Parra. He was the Memorial High School student the defense maintains was the reason Anthony was at the Memorial High School tent that fateful day. The defense has referred to Parra as Anthony's friend, but when questioned by the prosecution, he didn't define their relationship that way.
We finally hear from Eddie, and Eddie all but says that we weren't really that good of friends. I just knew this kid because he was dating my what he called his cousin, but a childhood friend. Eddie's testimony, coupled with everybody else's, doesn't seem like he had any reason being under the tent at all.
but on cross-examination, the
Now that's different than because we thought he did have a reason for being under the tent, which is the rain.
Mhm.
But now it seems like the testimony is coming out that he didn't have any reason to be under the tent.
Uh-oh.
How does that change anything for you, Kurt?
I mean, it's a factor that goes to aggravation or mitigation. I don't think it has much to do with liability. It's more to do with sentencing to me.
What about you, Eric?
I'm with Kurt on that in the sense of, does it really change the basic facts, whether if it was raining like crazy outside, not raining, isn't really the argument about the confrontation, not the reason for being in the tent. I don't know.
Well, I'm thinking that's the reason why why this was important, is because it kind of goes to motive, right? Why were you
Sure.
even under the tent? I was under the tent for this particular reason.
Okay.
It's outside my control. So I think that may be it. It like, but I think it was Kurt said. I think it hurts. It cuts to motive and liability a little bit.
defense showed the jury several photographs of Parra and Anthony hanging out and seemingly having fun. Parra maintained they only hung out when Anthony's then-girlfriend was around, calling her the common link between them. Defense attorney Toby Shook asked Parra to demonstrate on him how he remembered seeing Metcalf shove or push Anthony before the stabbing. But it was when Assistant District Attorney Bill Worski asked Parra to describe the deadly encounter between Metcalf and Anthony that he broke down.
Then when Eddie describes it, when he lifted up his shirt and saw the hole, like he said hole, not just a wound, a hole. So that kind of gives you an idea maybe how big this wound was, this stab wound.
The state's last witness was Dr. Elizabeth Ventura, the Collin County chief medical examiner who performed Metcalf's autopsy. Metcalf's parents and other family members stepped out of the courtroom prior to her testimony. Ventura showed the jury 4 photographs of the stab wound. She said the stab wound was 2 inches in length and noted it was, quote, gaping. Ventura added that the knife blade wound went through Metcalf's heart wall. She said the injury was not survivable and ruled the official cause of death, stab wound of the chest, manner of death, homicide, meaning it resulted from the intentional actions of another person. The state rested after calling 21 witnesses. Anthony's legal team maintains that the then 17-year-old acted in self-defense when he fatally stabbed Metcalf with a 3.5-inch folding knife. They have repeatedly pointed out that Metcalf was much taller and bulkier than Anthony. The jury now hearing their side of things. I talked to a criminal defense attorney not involved in this case.
What they're going to want to do is have witnesses that can establish exactly what was going on, what words were said, what actions were taking place. Defense is going to want to say that this was self-defense, and they're going to want to get those specific actions.
I think it seems like the defense attorney showing, like, they're reacting eventually. That's the witness who's there, and he's reacted. He's I keep saying reacting. He's saying, they're saying, what did it look like when Metcalf grabbed Anthony? And that's how it looked. So again, it seems to me, if this is what happened, then I think because we were arguing over innocence before, or whether or who was the initial aggressor.
Mm-hmm.
If Metcalf grabbed Anthony in this way, I would say Metcalf was the initial aggressor.
Yeah. And then you're looking at a potential imperfect self-defense. So blow me up, because I'll talk about this a little bit to the chat so we can discuss this concept. Okay, so we need to talk about self-defense as it applies in sort of 2 flavors. There's perfect self-defense, and then there's imperfect self-defense. So perfect self-defense is the one that you're probably more familiar with. That'd be something like Rittenhouse. Rittenhouse is being faced with an imminent fatal threat. He's being shot at, he's being fatally attacked. He responds with fatal force. So you've got fatal force and the response of fatal force, right? That's justification, and that's perfect, because if the jury believes it, it's a complete, perfect defense, right? You don't need anything more. Now, there is something called imperfect defense, where it doesn't get you completely off the hook, but it mitigates. And this is an example where you could have imperfect self-defense. So if Metcalf attacks Anthony with non-lethal force, and then Anthony comes back with lethal force, that can be viewed as imperfect defense. because it's not like he didn't have the right to respond at all. He could have responded with non-lethal force, but he responded with too much force.
Yeah.
So his defense is imperfect. That is a defense that can lead to a lessening of the charge, from like from murder to manslaughter. And also in the context of Texas specifically, it's a defense that's offered during sentencing. So the way that Texas does it is they do the guilt phase first on the murder, and then they can argue imperfect self-defense in sentencing. And the jury can actually reduce the charge down in sentencing if they want to manslaughter. Or if they don't go that far, they can still use it as a mitigating factor, because the jury can award anything from like 5 to 99 years. Because Texas just has this very weird range. In a lot of states, it's like if you're convicted of murder, it's like 25 to life. Texas is like somewhere between 5 and 99. And the jury gets to pick that number.
Is he tried
So
as an
the jury
adult or
can
a
use
minor?
that imperfect defense to lessen the conviction if they buy that version of the story.
Sorry, is he being tried as a minor or an adult?
Well, he was a minor at the time, so there's no death penalty. He's being tried as an adult, but there's no death penalty because he was under 18.
I didn't think there would be anyway, even in this case.
Yeah.
But
Let me go back.
So he's being tried as an adult.
Yeah. I think this is almost over. Oh, yeah, it is.
In words as well.
And the defense called 3 witnesses to the stand to testify before the judge called it quits for today. It's too soon to tell if Karmelo Anthony will testify on his own behalf. Keep in mind that the burden of proof is on the state. I can tell you that court resumes on Monday.
So that's kind of where we're at. But I will say this, though. Based on, again, this is how I feel about it. So I want to make it very clear. This is, I could be wrong. But I think the self-defense claim, because like Kurt has administered perfect self-defense, I just don't think you have it here. I think this loses on proportionality alone. And when we're talking about self-defense and the elements of self-defense, understand to achieve perfect self-defense, the defendant has to be right on all of those points. The defendant has to be innocent. The threat had to be imminent. It had to be proportional. Like the defendant has to win on everything. And if the defendant loses on one, then he loses perfect self-defense. But you can still win on imperfect self-defense, because now you're talking about mitigating it. If like Kurt was explaining, proportionality was different, right? I used deadly physical force to respond to a physical force threat, or but you still were innocent, right? The person grabbed you. So that's what we're looking at. So I'm thinking right now, if we were just looking at the case blindly, well, not blindly, but with the facts that we have in hand, I don't believe that he's going to be able to argue perfect self-defense and win that argument, because I think the facts are just not with him. And my reasoning is because, number one, you just don't look at the event. The event itself, you have to look at the circumstances surrounding it, because that's how you kind of build what reasonable is. Is it reasonable to bring a knife to a track meet? Is it reasonable because it all then kind of pulls together? Well, now, since you do have a knife at a track meet, if you're under someone else's tent and they ask you to leave, is it reasonable to react this way? Is it reasonable if somebody grabs you in this way for you to pull out a gun and shoot them, or for you to pull out a knife? You have your teachers and you have all these other people around you, because this is a supervised event. You have teachers, you have all these other people. Was there other aid? Like, you start thinking, if you're just a regular person, you start thinking about all of this in the context of his argument. And I think when it comes to, I just don't think Karmelo Anthony can make an argument that the force he used was reasonable. And I don't think he can also make an argument that it was imminent, that he was going to suffer imminent serious physical injury in the context of being at the sports event. Go ahead.
I was looking at the chat and I heard some of the.
Eric froze for you too?
Karmelo had some sort of disciplinary problems or have been expelled or something. Now, could that also be a factor if technically he was not even supposed to be at the event? Would a trespassing or something like that be relevant?
Just taking on that is true. That's called character evidence. So you can't really show character evidence to show that the person conformed with a previous character trait, unless.
Oh, is it character a trespass? You're not supposed to be here. And you're there. It's kind of like a restraining order. Is that a character argument if somebody's violating, a condition? I mean, I don't know. I'm asking.
Well, I'm not sure about the trespass because that's the first time I've heard it. I was because you had said there were some disciplinary issues before, so I was speaking to that.
Right.
Like
They're
also,
saying
even if he had been like expelled from the school, it doesn't necessarily mean they couldn't have attended the event.
Well, I
mean, without knowing for sure, I would assume that the event had people that were not students, like parents and members of the public that they were there to watch because people like watching that kind of thing. And so even if he had been like expelled from school, it doesn't necessarily mean he couldn't have been there.
That's true, but most parents they're in the stands, not on the field with the students.
Well,
so I'm just asking.
Well, two things. Yeah. No, I understand. But you're asking two questions, right? So the first question you're asking is, was it relevant about his past history of discipline? He had bad disciplinary records, expelled and all that stuff. And I'm saying,
I'm not asking, I don't care. I meant if he's allowed to be there. No, I
know, but that was the first thing you had asked, right? That was the first thing you brought that up. So my response to that was, that's character evidence. Just because he did bad things in the past doesn't mean he did this bad thing, and generally that is not allowed in court. Then the second thing you brought up was, now you're talking about whether he was trespassing at this particular event and so forth and so forth. Right. And I'm saying that could be relevant into whether it was reasonable for him to act this way. But I think what uncivil law is making it clear that, but generally, unless I see the restraining order, I don't think it is relevant. I think because even if that place is open to the public, and even if he was there in the wrong place, under a trespass warning or a trespass order, you would still have to judge whether he still has a right to self-defense in that particular instance. Would you agree with me, Kurt, or no?
Yeah, I think this is what I'm saying. They're kind of separate and apart. This is what I was saying about the felon in possession cases. Like, your ability to be present somewhere doesn't necessarily impact your ability to have self-defense. Even if you're trespassing, that doesn't mean that someone can confront you with deadly force, right? So if you're trespassing and someone starts confronting you, you might have the right to respond, notwithstanding the fact that you're trespassing. They're just not the same issue.
But it does give Metcalf a reason to say, "Hey, dude, you're not supposed to be here. Get out."
If Metcalf knew that,
but he would have had to known about the trespass warning. Yeah, you'd have to prove he knew that. If you can't prove he knew that, then that would become irrelevant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like you just have to base it on what people knew at the time. And like, people in the chat are asking, why are we working so hard to defend Anthony? It's like, well, we're not necessarily working so hard.
I just want the facts.
It's just that the defense's case is not yet clear. We've heard from the state's case. The defense really has just started their case. So the factual predicate is still a little bit vague, because that's what juries are for and trials are for. It's like, we don't know. We know what the state has said and what their witnesses have said, but we don't know what the defense has said and their witnesses will say. So part of the reason we're doing this is because we're trying to speculate a little bit about things the defense might argue. And here's some things they might try to say and some witnesses might say. And so it's a little speculation, but it's, it's grounded speculation based on what we can observe. And it's like, okay, well, if these things happen and if the jury buys these things, then it might lead to this kind of result. So we're just trying to, forecast.
When I'm the non-lawyer, so I'm asking from essentially what would be a jury standpoint or a citizen standpoint of, well, does this factor, doesn't that factor, what have you? Because I really don't understand that. I don't know completely.
Yeah, and well, one thing, and I don't know who's saying it in the chat, because they must just walked in when we were talking about this.
Well, Kurt has a chat going too. I think there's 3 chats.
Yeah, all right, because we've constantly said we don't believe this is perfect self-defense. Like everybody here
no, we don't.
We don't believe this is something. We believe he's going to get convicted. So anybody saying we're defending him, maybe you need to rewind.
Our defense is imperfect at best.
Yeah.
Very literally imperfect at best.
We're saying he's going to jail. We just mentioned about how long he's going to jail.
Are we vacillating between manslaughter and imperfect self-defense, or second-degree murder?
Kind of the same thing.
Because so just so we procedurally understand how this works. if he doesn't have perfect self-defense, he will be convicted of murder. So then you get the murder conviction. Then you have the penalty phase of the trial.
I see.
Where then he'll go. Well, then the jury can say, well, you know what? Even though when the guy, because I'm assuming the jury can use it. And again, I'm not saying they will. I'm saying this is what they can do. They can say, well, when Metcalf grabbed Karmelo Anthony, he unreasonably believed that his life was in danger and stabbed him. And that belief was unreasonable. So we don't believe it's going to be, we're not going to give him 99 years for murder. We're only going to give him 5 years for manslaughter. That's the difference the way it works.
So it's a mitigation.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a mitigation.
Yeah. So
that's the way Texas does it. It's a little weird because they basically do the conviction in 2 phases. They have the initial conviction, so he'll be convicted of murder almost certainly. And then during sentencing, they're going to come up possibly with these other arguments. The jury could actually reduce it down in sentencing.
That sounds
Texas
like
is
wisdom,
weird.
though.
It's just
I
the way they
like
do
that.
it, man.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now I want to go to some. So here are some people who are going to explain why they believe Karmelo Anthony is not guilty. And the reason why I want to play this because I was listening to these 2 commentators, and I thought either I'm outside my mind or they are making absolutely no sense because from what they're saying. Let me knock down some of these super chats from our channels. Defense against what? A deserved punch to the face? Well, yeah. If you punch somebody to the face, you can defend yourself. Yeah, you can.
Yeah,
that is self-defense. But you don't get to shoot the person. But yeah, you get self-defense. Yeah. 10 memberships for uncivil. There you go, boy. Boom. Member for 32 months. All right. And we have, doesn't Anthony lose self-defense claim?
Not necessarily.
Though if he was the one who provoked the confrontation.
Yeah, not necessarily. It can get complicated.
Because you could still do imperfect self-defense. And again, from what we're saying, it seems like this wasn't it seems like he didn't provoke it. It seems like there's a reasonable argument that Metcalf provoked it. And I think if you're looking at the facts, that's fair. So here is Quadnell X, and he's going to tell us why Karmelo Anthony, this is self-defense.
Charles, we just watched a segment here discussing the
Turn it up a
tragic
little.
loss of life of a young high school student in Frisco, Texas.
Oops, let me see. It's up.
This is old, right?
Yeah.
Texas at a track meet. And watching that newscast, it upsets me because that newscast is full of damn lies. This is a tragic situation where a young man lost his life, yes. But young Karmelo Anthony, in this case, the young man who's been charged with murder, he did not assault anyone in the beginning. He didn't start this fight. The young man approached him with his brother, threatening Karmelo to move out of a spot that was not assigned to anybody. Where Karmelo was sitting, he had a right to be sitting. There was no assigned seating anywhere in the stadium that excluded students from sitting in certain areas. Then when they went to Karmelo, he was threatened by both brothers. And he told them, don't put your hands on me. And they threatened to put their hands on him.
Go ahead.
I already feel like there's some inaccuracies in his statement right from the beginning. Like when he said that there was no assigned seating, I'm sure that is true in the stands, but this was a tent that was put up specifically for the team, and that in of itself would imply assigned seating for the people who own the tent or controlled the tent. Again, I don't want to get into the details, but I do feel like he's misrepresenting already on its face just a very basic fact.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it's like if you go to a public park and you put a tent up and then somebody comes into your tent, right? It's like, yeah, you can be anywhere in the park, but I'm in the tent. It reminds me, I don't know if you guys ever watched that.
Or your car, you park the car. Hey, you know what? It's free parking in the car, so you can get in my car. What? How's that work?
It reminds me of Harold and Kumar go to White Castle, and there's a scene where Jamie Kennedy goes and he's so Harold goes like into the bushes and starts peeing in a bush, And then Jamie Kennedy comes and walks up right to the next bush. And he's like, why are you peeing right next to me in the bush? He's like, there's a whole bunch of bushes here. You don't own this bush. This is, but I think the argument here is very, very, very deceptive. I think it's a deceptive argument because if you got a tent, your bags and personal property are under there, then obviously, even though he's technically right, the area is open to the public, but that's not realistic. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? It's not reasonable.
That's why I brought up
the
car argument. If I park my car at the park, technically that's a public park and people can be anywhere in the park. But that doesn't mean they can be inside my car. Last time I checked.
But there's also separate laws that I think would involve somebody get in your car versus
or a campground, or I go to the park and I throw up a canopy and I'm having a picnic with the family.
And if somebody comes
give you the right to come over and sit down in the middle and say, "Hey,
this is my tent now," and I have the right to be there. And if you kick me out the tent, I'm gonna stab you. Yeah, I just don't think. Yeah.
Him, and he told them, if you put your hands on me, watch what happens. The white kid, in this case, punched Karmelo in the face. He didn't push him; he punched him in the face.
Did he?
And then
no.
Okay.
Karmelo was saying that, but now we know that it wasn't. He grabbed him. There was no punching in the face.
That young man defended himself.
It's a significant difference. I'm sorry. If he was punched, that would be a completely different argument.
It would be a very different argument.
Yeah, you're totally right.
The nature of the imperfect self-defense is mitigated on the disparity, right?
Yes.
So there is a difference in law as well as fact between how disparate and how separate it is. So not all non-lethal force and not all lethal force is necessarily created equally. So the disparity between what he was allowed to do and what he did do is a very significant factor. If the disparity is enough, the jury can very well find that there wasn't sufficient provocation at all.
Yep.
So it depends on the specifics of what the jury believes is the fact finder.
a young student lost his life. But Charles, in the state of Texas, you have a right to stand your ground. And if you are the victim of a vicious attack, you can use deadly force if necessary to protect yourself and your life, to stop you from becoming a further victim of an assault or a crime. Why is this young man in jail when he didn't start it? He didn't approach anyone. They approached him. They used profane language toward him. They threatened him and then assaulted him, and he defended himself. Why is he in jail? He's defended himself from a vicious attack and assault. So this young man, in my opinion, should not be in jail. Teach your children. Keep your hands to yourself. That's what needs to be taught here. And to tell this young brother to give up your seat, give me your seat. This ain't no damn Rosa Parks era. You just can't go to a young black man and say, give up your seat. He had a right to sit there. And so that brother had his back at the bus moment and refused to give up his seat, and it cost that young white kid his life.
This guy is
the guy on the left has that look of just like, oh god.
You know what's interesting?
Was this a Rosa Parks moment, kid?
Yeah, but what's really interesting about it is my chat leans right wing. And I've heard people on my chat who are like so right wing, they've actually argued this kind of thing. It's like, yes, I should be able to use deadly force even if I'm like merely hit, even if I'm merely punched. I should have the right to self-defense. So, you think it's ridiculous, but it's like I've heard some right wing people make this kind of argument. Yes, if I were punched, I should have the right to stab someone. I'm like, that is not the law, man. Nor do I think
the problem I have, Kurt, with this guy though is he's just lying from the jump. We've already saying he's misrepresenting facts all along. Like the punch didn't even happen. Now, if let's say Metcalf was 6'6" and Karmelo was 5'9", and there was a punch, it would be like the Michael Brown case, where there's so much disparity in size. That would be what. But he's just lying. The punch didn't even happen. But
there's like
open seating didn't happen. It just seems like
there's factual arguments in there, and there's also theoretical arguments in there. That's the thing. Like he's arguing, okay, here's what happened factually about the guy punched him or not. Like that's a pure factual argument. But then there's also like the philosophical argument. You shouldn't be able to go up to a black kid and tell him to move his seat, and if he does, basically implicitly, he should be able to stab you. That is not a factual argument. That's a philosophical argument. And I'm like, okay, well, no, I don't think we should be able to stab people just because they asked me to move from my seat, or just because they touched me, or just because they hit me. I think, we should still live in a world where there's proportionality. I think that would be good. So, yeah.
I've got
Go ahead,
another
Eric.
one, and I could save a ton of time. It's probably too early to say it, but I don't care. I would go to Mr. X and I would just ask one question. Let's reverse the races and see where you come out. Let's say that it was Austin Metcalf who was sitting down, and it was Carmelo Anthony who was saying, hey, dude, you need to get out of my seat. And Austin Metcalf stabbed Carmelo Anthony. Now, would Mr. X be saying, oh my God, the boy has a right to defend himself? That horrible. No, I have a funny feeling that if we reverse the races, his opinion might also take a 180. And I put it out to the chat and everybody else and all of you. What do you think? Do you think he would maintain his position?
I think he would have a different view on it. Let me read this one. This guy's misinformed. The brother was on the other side of the tent during this, according to the testimony that has been reported. That's true. It wasn't him and the brother. But I think what he's doing, he's going with Carmelo Anthony's statement. So what he's saying is, this is what Carmelo Anthony said. And he's taking it as fact and saying this is what happened. But then you have the witnesses who are saying this is not what happened. This is what happened. If it's true, Austin plus several students confronted Carmelo Anthony because he was in that space. Doesn't that contribute to Carmelo Anthony's fear and reason to protect himself? And isn't the tent owned by the public school thus public? Again, that's like if we just like when we used to play football and stuff. We had a tent for our team. It's owned by the school, right? But only our team is going under that tent. So I still think that's a weak argument. But to the other thing is, yes, if you go under a tent, like you're at a track meet, you're another team, and you go to the opposing tent's team, right? I mean, opposing team's tent. That's what I want to say.
Yeah.
And then they all say, what are you doing here? Get out of here, get out of here, get out of here. And yours and the argument is that's enough to fear for your life and use deadly physical force. Like that's where I think you have to talk about reasonable, right? Is it reasonable to think that you really need to use deadly physical force in that situation? And I just don't think I don't think it is. I don't think any reasonable person would use deadly physical force because of that situation. We need a culture that values restraint and accountability instead of turning every incident into racial division and escalation. And last one, bringing race into any situation just wasteful. Yes. We're going to talk about the whole how they said the jury. They said that the jury's all essentially we're saying there's no black people on the jury, but the implication was that this was an all-white jury. But when you do look into the race of the jury is majority white, but it also has other minorities on it. It has Asians. It has someone from India. I think it has a couple of Hispanics who are alternates. So it's not an all-white jury, but people are making it seem like the jury's all white
because of the way they word things to force an inferment. That it comes out, and I know my show partner said an all-white jury because he interpreted it that way. Yeah. They deliberately said there's no black people on the jury. Why did you word it that way? Well, because it gives an impression in a lot of people's minds that, if there's no black people, then it's all white. Yeah, makes no sense if you really break it down, but that was the intent, in my opinion.
You know what? To be fair, here is I'll let the other guy respond to this because the other guy is supposed to be the guy that's far left and far right. So let's see what the far right guy says.
I rarely say this, Quano. I sometimes internalize it, but shame on you. How absolutely despicable for you to sit here and try to draw this false equivalency between Rosa Parks and this scumbag murderer, right? Shame on you for living a life defined by make-believe racial grievance that you seek a pulpit to lie to people. And let's talk about those lies. Even if you assume everything that is coming out of the Carmelo Anthony camp, even if you assume all of that is true, under the laws of the state of Texas, he is still absolutely guilty of murder, period. Like, you can assume all the fabrications are true. It's still murder, right? You do not have a right to use deadly force in response to a shove or a punch. Now, mind you, all the witness statements are saying it was a shove that was goaded, but let's assume everyone's lying and this murderer is telling the truth. You still can't, because the scenario, what you're advocating for, and pulling Rosa Parks into, is that every time someone walks through a club and someone shoves them or bumps them, you can pull out a knife and stab them in the heart and kill them. And I have no doubt that more is going to come out of Karmelo Anthony, that more evidence, there are rumors that I don't want to regurgitate.
Oh, please do.
No.
Please
let's
do.
talk about what has been sold. That you sent me this weekend when we were discussing it. You sent me the statement by the police chief that turned out to be just fabricated. Somebody out there making believe the FBI is now involved, right? And that people are regurgitating all over social media. And it's all driven on racial lines. You are the one that was calling for Daniel Penny to go to prison for life. Now, mind you, we have this new spectacular game in America, right, where we play white man always bad and evil, black man always good, no matter what happens. The truth is, my feelings on this, if it was a white young man who brought a knife to school, went to someone else's tent, started being a jackleg, refused to move out, and then pulled out a knife and jabbed it in someone's heart, I would call him a murderer. And if a white kid did exactly what Karmelo Anthony did to a black kid, you would be out here marching in the streets.
Oh, no, I would not be.
People would be burning your
George
Zimmerman.
Thank you.
Eric.
No. I'm like, thank you for saying my point. I just said 5 minutes ago. And by the way, George Zimmerman's not white there, buddy. So next.
No.
Well,
But
depends.
yeah, depends on who you ask, right? 10 uncivil law memberships. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for the memberships. I love you
subscribe
guys.
to both attorneys and love that you both are covering this. Thank you. And uncivil law, you got another 5 gift memberships going out. So you got the gift membership machine. After Ahmaud Arbery, the legal system is cooked. So just so we got both sides of the argument, right? And I know now, you're going to have some people in the chat saying, Nate, what happened to your blackness? Because you're a great, but I agree with the white guy. I think when you introduce race to these cases, unfortunately, it just blinds people. Because in one instance, if I think exactly what they're saying, in one instance, if you reverse the races, this person would be marching in the streets. Justice for Karmelo, right? So it's wild, because the absurd argument that he's making essentially is, if you go up to someone and they have any type of fear, they can kill you, right? Any type of fear. So it doesn't have to be reasonable. You touch a black man, he can kill you. And that's I think that's just ridiculous. But again, that's the argument that he's making. What say you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think both sides on this argument need to calm down, because this is not very productive on either of these people's argument, especially where, as I point out, we have this concept of imperfect self-defense, which means as a matter of law, we might actually wind up somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
That is a plausible outcome of this.
Yes. Well, this is Amazing Lucas. And this video just came out yesterday, and he's going to give his little take on what he's seeing.
At the end of the day, what is being decided is whether or not Karmelo's self-defense claim is valid, whether or not the amount of force he applied, which was a knife, and it wasn't any big knife, it was 3.5 inches, according to the statements, whether the knife, which he only hit one time, he didn't go only times like Chud the Builder, it was one time, whether or not.
Okay, that solves it. It's only one.
That he believed he was in is justified for a knife, because everyone keeps talking about, you don't bring a knife to a fist fight. You do if you are being beaten to an ounce of your life. That's what happens. If you are being beaten up.
When did that happen?
Where you feel your life is in danger, yes, you can't escalate to a knife. That's what happens. And that's what basically this whole entire case is about. It's not about
basically it's a wiggle word.
At the end of the day, he claimed self-defense. So we have to see whether or not that's a valid claim. Once again, the white ignorance can't, understand that. They can't, they can't comprehend that. This is the irony of this story. Listen, to Austin Metcalf's parents, to any of the white nationalists or the racists or anyone who's rooting for Austin Metcalf, because I've seen some heinous things about Karmelo, how he needs to be executed and all this bullcrap. Listen, it's very simple, okay? The moral of this story, what you all need to understand.
Hold on, Nate. You let that slip
okay?
by.
You're gonna be.
Yeah, he put up Viva. He put up our boy Viva.
Yeah, I don't pretend I'm not going to see that flash. Come on now. Oh my God. If anything, he's even worse than Mr. X here. Oh my Lord.
I don't really think the fact pattern lays out
No.
for that. Like even in the prosecutions, like the it's just not that kind of case. It's not, a pre-planned, revenge murder or murder for money or something like that. It's, the version for the state is basically two people got completely out of control and heated, and testosterone got the better of them, and it led to this deadly conflict. It's not one of the more aggressive murders I've ever heard of in my life.
I agree that this is a strong reaction, but I do think it's funny that he slipped it in. Nate just kind of
Especially from a Canadian. Calm down, man. I mean, even in Texas, where we believe in the death penalty, it's like, calm down, man.
I think the point, especially with the Amazing Lucas, I think the point that I think he misses sometimes is the fact of the matter is that he from what he's saying believes that this is proportional. From what he's essentially saying, I think this is proportional.
Well, hold on. He drew out, though. He reframed it and created a fantasy scenario and then said it's proportionate. So let me explain. If in fact Karmelo Anthony was taken to the ground and being beaten, I would argue that yes, he could have maybe even a perfect self-defense
and that's the situation you
at
could
that
go
point.
Yeah.
But that's not the situation. So I don't know if you call it a straw man, but it is a complete reframing of the events to make an argument, and thus I think the short term of that would be a lie.
But I do have to stop. We'll interject here with the legal point. You don't have to have the assault completed or the threat of deadly physical force completed to use deadly physical. So in other words, if someone pulls out a gun, they don't have to shoot you before you can apply.
I understand.
So in this particular case, he could have a reason, and I'm not saying he did. So I just want to make sure because people jump on me. He could technically have a reasonable belief that this guy that two or more people, or the guy grabs and he's losing his footing. Then you could make that argument. Like he doesn't have to be on the ground. I just want to make that clear.
But
if he was, that would be a better argument.
I'm using his words, Nate. I'm using his words. He said, and he drew it out like that is what happened. And maybe I'm wrong. He didn't say, imagine if it was. He just said, you've got this guy. He's being beat down. And then he said, that's basically. And by the way, statement analysis, when you say basically, now you've just put in a little marker in there so you can just put together a bullshit statement. You say, well, basically. And they can say, well, I didn't say it actually was that. I said it was basically that. So I'm sorry. It's a lie. There, I'll save time. It's a lie. It was basically a lie.
Basically, this is the same as if Metcalf had pulled out a submachine gun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like basically he's doing a lot of work in the sentence, man.
Oh yeah. But I think unfortunately, because he's pushing the fact that he thinks this is self-defense. But then if you flip it to Chud the Builder, who, the guy comes up to him, he's saying these words, and the guy punches him, and then he pulls the gun and shoots the guy. Well, then Lucas is on the other side of that. He says Chud didn't have any reason to shoot the guy, right? He bought a gun to a fist fight.
Is Chud white?
Yes.
Oh, of course. God, it's funny how I could just guess these things and I don't even know the case.
And he shot a black guy. So it's interesting to see how all these opinions flip when the races are reversed. Like,
it does seem to do that somewhat.
Yeah, when it's Chud the Builder who's been punched and he uses self-defense and he says he's using self-defense, I said obviously that's not self-defense. You know, it's too the proportionality isn't there. All nature wrong. But then I'm using that same logic in this particular thing, and it's like nature right. So
here's a super fun idea. What if we did this like race neutral? What if we had? I know this is a bold concept, but what if we had the same rule? What if we had the same rules, regardless if it was a white or black perp or a white or black victim? How about that? Maybe if we just like treated it exactly the same and just looked at the facts in a race blind way. Wow, that might be fun.
Yeah.
Now imagine we animated it and we just said in the courtroom you have two blue animations. Both sides are blue, right? No features. You can't tell if it's male or female. Figure one does this, figure two does that. And that really should be how we're determining it, right? Where we don't know anything other than one figure did this and the other figure did that. Is this appropriate or not?
I've done a lot of bar exam hypotheticals, and I don't remember the races of the people being mentioned when we're doing the analysis on like self-defense. You know, they don't mention that because who cares?
Well, again, now because I do want to, I would be remiss if I didn't bring this up, but there was the issue with the all white jury, right? Where with the news media was like, there's no black people on the jury, and it's funny because then they made it seem like it was an all white jury, but no black people being on the jury means that there are Asians on the jury, there are Indians on the jury, there are Hispanics on the jury. So maybe they're talking about white. Just somebody put in the chat earlier, white adjacent. So, but I think that's kind of what drives
white adjacent. That's nice.
Yeah, but I think
everyone can be white if they believe hard enough.
Maybe no. Well, if you're Asian,
I feel terrible for these other people. They don't have. There is no other race than black and white. I did not know that.
Well,
Asians, you don't exist.
To be fair, the category of white has been expanding over the years. You know, it didn't used to include the Irish
or the Jews,
or the Italians.
Yeah.
So, like, hey, the concept of whiteness is growing. So that's good. It now includes the Asians, apparently. Man, this is great.
Oh man. Well, so I'm assuming at the end of the day, right now, from my perspective, it seems like the prosecution has proved its case. Because they have to prove two things. Number one, they have to prove that he actually committed the crime, which I think is pretty simple, right? The act, he stabbed him and all that stuff, and meant to stab him and so forth and so forth. So I think you have that element. And then the prosecution has to disprove self-defense. They have to prove that he didn't act with self-defense. And I think with the witnesses and everything and kind of understanding the circumstances around this, I think they have a great argument that this is not perfect self-defense. And to Kurt's argument, this is probably going to be a good argument for imperfect self-defense because of the way this kind of played out.
I mean, that's fair. So is the public arguing over the sentencing phase versus the actual truth or innocence phase? Would that be a good analogy?
Yeah. I think
the argument's in the sentencing phase. Yeah.
That's where it's at.
I think if you're talking about whether those parents or people on the jury are going to believe that he was in any way essentially he's got to be,
and then they just get to pick a number, any number. Texas is the greatest or most interesting when it comes to this, because again, like most states, when you're sentenced to murder, it's like, oh, there's 15, 20, 25 years or whatever. Texas is like, pick a number between 5 and 99. What's your favorite? What's your favorite number? As long as they can get them all to agree, man.
I like the idea.
37.
37. That works. Why? We can't ask you why. You just give us the number and we'll take care of it.
Can't the judge adjust it though too? Down, if the jury, I know that the judge probably can't go more than a jury, but let's say the jury says 30 and the judge says, I'm going to make it 15, or I'm going to suspend 15 of those years. Could the judge also step in and?
I don't know the finer points of that, to be honest. I know because you can have the jury do it or the judge do it. I'm pretty sure the defense, and they have to make that selection. At least before closing, and I think they already made the selection. I think they said they wanted the jury to do it, which didn't surprise me. The jury's going to do it, right? And it's up to the defense. They get to choose. They get to choose their poison, And so I'm pretty sure it's in this case it's for the jury. And so, yeah, 12 people are going to have to agree on a number. If I were betting, man, I think all things considered,
10 to
they're
20.
probably looking at like 20 years.
Yeah,
I think maybe less. Yeah, because I think what this basically boils down to the end of the day is, someone just lost their temper and did a stupid machismo thing. And,
Young.
someone's dead for it. But, it's like, I think that's going to resonate with the jury. So, yeah, I'm going to go with 20 on the over-under.
Well, he's also young, potentially immature. He hasn't fully developed, things like that. So
that helps a lot
it's
too.
not, it's not perfect, but same reason he shouldn't get the death penalty according to the laws there. I think that could be a factor too. Like he didn't have the maturity to modify it. So in 20 years, hopefully he'll be more mature and you can let him back out or something like that.
Maybe. Well, to the question of judges can generally change. They can. Well, I'm not sure how it is in Texas, but I know generally they can. And the example I like to use in this situation is sometimes if the jury, which happens sometimes where the jury says death penalty, the judge will say, no, we're going to give you life in prison. So, and that happens sometimes, but
right, but they can't do the reverse, right? If the jury says sorry, life in prison, the judge can't say, no, too bad, kill him.
Yeah,
that's happened before. That happened before too. Oh. But now the Supreme Court,
Supreme Court of the United States says you can't do that anymore.
Yeah, they say you can't do that. So that used to judges used to do that all the time. Yeah. Then they said, no.
I'm glad because
they haven't been able to do that for 20 years.
That the judge can tone it down, but the jury should have the say on the high end because they're society, right? They're representing society in the argument.
Before we get to the next story, what do you guys feel about? Florida now has implemented the death penalty for child blank abuse cases.
Yeah, that's not legal. Supreme Court has said that's already non-legal. The one that I'm surprised that the U.S. Supreme Court hasn't taken up on it yet is the non-unanimous juries for the death penalty because it's like we only need 8 votes. I'm pretty sure the Florida Supreme Court has already said it's legal. It's like I'm not sure, man, but the U.S. Supreme Court hasn't taken it up yet, so we'll see.
I'm uncomfortable with that. Maybe it's just tradition, but don't get me wrong. Life imprisonment without parole, I'm perfectly fine with, but I've always felt that death for death, an execution really involves somebody on the other side dying, for the equality. And maybe I'm just old fashioned and simple, but it worries me, and it's a slippery slope angle. Like, okay, so then, well, what else could be the death penalty? Well, you know what? That's practically a murder, so we'll say that could be a death penalty too. And then, well, that's practically a murder as well. And well, you know what? Let's.
I mean, we could go way old school when all felonies were death penalty.
Yeah, like rustling cattle is a death penalty. Yeah.
Interfering with the mail, death penalty.
That was death penalty. Yeah.
Old school, man.
It saves time. And recidivism is not a problem.
Poaching, illegal poaching, death penalty.
Horse wrangling. If you steal a horse or if you steal cattle, you're death penalty. Death penalty.
How old school do you guys want to go over here?
but if you think about it though, because I know they were doing this. There's a great law article on this. I forgot because I read it when I was in law school. But they were explaining how they were explaining how in back in those times when you didn't have the means to take care of prisoners, right? Because if somebody's in prison, you got to feed them, you got to clothe them, you have to watch over them, and all those resources you'd have to spend on doing that. It's just simpler to kill them. So that's why everything was a death sentence, right? Hey, we gotta go to watch you a 10-year sentence. We got to take care of you for 10 years. But in modern society, now that you have the infrastructure to take care of people for 10, 20, 100 years, you can do that. But back then, you can't do it. So death was you stole our stuff. Let's kill them, or the 20 years in state prison. So let's move on to the Ethan Klein lawsuit.
Yes, that was perhaps surprising to some of us on LawTube.
Yes, because most of us, let me pull this up. So for those who remember, Ethan Klein was suing 3 streamers. Demis, well, I keep saying it's Denimus, or I think
it's Denims, like the
Denims,
jeans.
Demis. Well, anyway,
I get it wrong
Frogan
every time too.
and
Don't worry about
Casey
it.
Tron.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've been having a problem even well you've known like recalling words and speech has been a little issue, but it's gotten a lot better though.
It's all you see.
So-
This is Nate's go-to excuse.
Oh, my
when
go-to
things go
excuse,
wrong.
that's
It's just the brain tumor. Okay, tell us how the brain tumor has impacted your speech. Oh, la-di-da.
Yeah.
I love
But
it, Nate.
oh, that I know. But no, it's gotten better though. And we'll see how it goes. But no, it's and you know it's also great for what's it called? It's also great when I pull out the walker and I get to go do the handicap parking. That's also fun. But so he sets up this lawsuit and he puts out this piece of content. He calls it the nuke. They go, as soon as he puts it out, they react to it. And each one of them says the stated purpose of them reacting to it was to deny Ethan Klein views on his original content. So in other words, to take money from his pocket through this theft of his content. So each one of the women admitted that on stream. This is the reason why we're doing this. So Ethan Klein had already registered. I think I said that wrong. Registered the copyright before he put it out, so he could have the statutory damages. And essentially, they did exactly what they said. Two of them, like Casey Tron and Denimis.
Casey Tron settled.
She settled.
Frogan
defaulted, and the other one she won on fair use.
Yeah, Denims won on fair use.
Denims were on fair use. Yes. So here is the judge's ruling on this particular case.
Tentative decision.
Tentative decision. Yes. So this is, I think, 90% done, but the judge goes through the case.
What is a tentative decision? What the hell is that?
Well, it essentially
trial balloon
on the bottom here. It says it's granted, so I think this is essentially done. But
what the hell is it? What the hell is a tentative decision? You're a court. Just make a ruling. Damn.
Well,
here's some thoughts and musings I might have. What the hell is this? Is this a ruling or not? What the fuck is this?
It's a tentative decision. Tentative ruling.
Right.
You know what? Let me look this up, because courts can't give advisory rulings. But
no, they can't. It looks suspiciously like an advisory ruling.
No, it's not. I had looked this up before, but I want to make sure, because I honestly haven't seen tentative rulings before. But I usually work in state court, so they could have them, but I've just not seen them. And usually in criminal court, there's no tentative rulings. So I'm just going to see what they are.
Yeah,
I've never even asked myself what a tentative ruling was. All right, the tentative ruling is a judge's preliminary decision on a motion before the hearing. But this doesn't make any sense, because this is after the hearing, right? So there's actually a hearing. The court heard oral arguments on June 5th, and this came out June 5th. So it's supposed to be on a motion before the hearing, and shows the judge is currently leaning based on the written filings. So
yeah, it says right there the court heard oral argument. So
yeah,
it's like,
so I don't know why this is tentative, but we'll see.
Is it federal or state?
But it's not final.
Federal.
This is feds.
Okay.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm not sure the federal rules how they're doing with the federal rules, but a tentative ruling is like this is where I'm going. So that's why this is essential. I think this is done. I think this is about 90% done.
I mean, yeah, because I don't really understand like what this is meant to accomplish. Because if it were an official ruling, and I thought the judge made some mistake, I'd just file a motion to reconsider. So this is basically like me doing the motion to reconsider on a tentative ruling, because what it's inviting me to do is be like, okay, you made a mistake here, here, and here. You want to fix it. But it's like, I would have just done that anyway if it were a real ruling. So it's like, I'm not sure what this is supposed to accomplish, but okay.
Is it a way for the judge to, if you point out literally mistakes he made and he changes his mind? He doesn't have to say that he made a ruling and then had to turn on his own ruling. Is that what this is for? I don't know.
Is it some face-saving measure? I guess for whatever difference it makes. It's like, this isn't really a ruling that I'm reconsidering. This is a tentative ruling, which you're being asked to input before I make it final. Sure, whatever makes you happy, I guess.
So in this tentative decision, the court says it grants the motion for judgment on the pleadings. What does that mean? That means the court is accepting everything Ethan Klein is saying is true. And they're saying, if it's true that everything you're saying, does the defendant win? And in this, they're saying, the court is saying, yes, she does. That is what the court is saying in this particular instance. So they go through the facts and the court lays it out. Now, for those of you who watch the channel, you guys know what IRAC is. That's generally the legal analysis. So the court lays out its legal analysis. So here it lays out the 4 copyright factors: the purpose and character of use, the nature of the copyrighted work, the amount of and sustainability of the portion used in relation to the copyrighted work as a whole, essentially how much of the work did you use, and the effects upon the market. So when Ethan Klein was putting this up, he actually tried to go through each one. So when he set it up, the effects upon the market, he had their emissions, right? We're doing this to take value from your original work. So I think he set it up to try to get all of these checked off. They reacted to the entire content. So for number 3, they reacted to the whole thing. The nature of the copyrighted work, it was unique. It checked all those boxes. This wasn't him using somebody else's work. He created this whole, with interviews and all that stuff. So, and then the nature and character of use. This went to whether they were reacting to it. If they're generally reacting to it and making a commentary and changing it, then that would tend to be fair use. So the judge says, okay, here are the rules of the game. And that's what it is. And then we talk about, so then he goes, okay, purpose and character of use. Who do you think he ruled for in this particular case? Who do you think do you think this was transformative? Now, Ethan Klein argued that it wasn't transformative because there were times she's watching the video. She says, my reason for doing this is to take money from his pocket. And then she also leaves in some parts of the video. She just sits there and watches for long portions of it. She doesn't really give any commentary. But there are times she stops the video and argues with the video and stuff like that. But the majority of the time, she's just hate watching it. So that's Ethan Klein's position. And then Dennis, the defendant's position, denim. I'm going to keep calling it denim.
Like denim jeans. Just think jeans. But, denim jeans.
The defendant's position here is that this was transformative, and she did transform it, and in a big way. And that essentially, if you watch her version of the video, you come out to a totally different conclusion than if you watched Ethan Klein's version of the video. So the court came down and said this first factor, they said, where's that? It favors denims.
Denims.
Yeah.
And he says here, rather set forth the live stream incorporated real-time commentary, criticism, and analysis that alter the purpose and character of the original work. Accordingly, unlike this other case, defendant did not simply repackage or republish the underlying work with incidental commentary, but instead used the work in furtherance of a distinct expressive purpose. And that was, the judge says, he essentially anti-Semitism. Her purpose was to promote anti-Semitism. His purpose was to promote pro-Zionism. What do you guys think?
There's a valid point in that. I think the overriding factor, and we talked about offline, Nate, is this is specifically denim. He did it with 3 people, but specifically in the case of denim, apparently she did interact more.
Yes. She attempts to use the nuke for the exact opposite purpose. Now, this was something that hurt Ethan's argument, is that Ethan in his complaint said, well, hey, she used the video for the exact opposite purpose. And he says here, Ethan says the nuke for the exact opposite purpose, to radicalize her audience to be anti-Semitic and anti-racist, along with defending Hassan. Additionally, and then the judge says, well, that's the reason why this is transformative, because your purpose was one thing, and she so transformed it to another purpose that is the exact opposite of what you actually put it out for. So she won the first factor. And remember, factors are weighed. So you could have a situation where you win 3 of the 4 factors, but the 4th factor is just so overwhelming that it defeats that, even though you've lost the other 3 factors. Now the judge says this is, and the judge believes this, the defendant's use was transformative. Now this is going to be hard to overcome, because if it's transformative, then essentially it's just those other 3 factors are going to be a lot. They got to do a lot of heavy lifting. When it comes to commercial use, obviously she used it for a commercial purpose, but it's transformative. Next one, the nature of the copyrighted work. The judge in this case says that obviously this was a unique work, so the judge gives it to Ethan. But the judge also tells us how he weighs this second factor. Accordingly, the court finds the nature of the subject work weighs against a finding of fair use. So the defendant loses this. As set forth above, the factor alone is not terribly significant in the overall fair use balancing. So the judge is telling us this factor actually doesn't, it's, even though he's won this factor, it's not as important as the previous factor. This
question on the overall, and you guys can help me with this. How many factors have to be won for one side or the other to prevail? Does Ethan have to win all 4 in order to win his case, or half, or the majority? How many?
No, it's not that clean. That's one of the wonderful things about these. These are factors. So there's no answer to that question. If you win all the factors, then you win. Something other than that, it kind of just depends on how the court feels about the balance.
So then
exciting,
the factor is more important than the other factor?
Yeah.
Because for instance,
that being the case, however, transformative use has been the dominant factor for 40 years.
Yeah. If you win that, generally you're winning your case.
Okay.
Generally you're winning your case. So if you
just
can prove
wondering.
it's transformative, you're generally going to win your case. Yeah. But so the court says he wins factor 2 because it's unique work. Then factor 3, she used the entire thing. She used the entire work and all that stuff. But he actually quotes Ethan Klein's. Now, remember, Ethan Klein had the seminal case for copyright. He had fought. He had
people keep saying that. I don't think it was seminal. I don't
not
think
seminal, but that was,
I mean, I thought it was just a totally normal decision. But people cite it all the time. I'm like, it's just a normal case to me. But people cite it like it's
I would think
somehow interesting. I'm like, yeah.
Match.
Well, he used Sargon in this case, and he used Ethan Klein's prior case. And for Ethan Klein's prior case, this is this one. I don't want to cleanse that name, but it says the law is clear. However, the quantity alone is not determinative.
Correct.
So with that, essentially what that case was saying was that if I'm reacting and want to counter all your points in a particular piece of work, then I have to play that entire piece of work, because it wouldn't make sense if I'm just countering points that you don't see. So there are exceptions where I can watch the whole thing. If I'm saying you're wrong here, what you're saying here is wrong, we can watch the whole thing. And as long as I give you those negative, say that. So the court found that she was doing that, but the court said this one does not weigh against the defendant, but it doesn't really weigh for the plaintiff. It's essentially a neutral factor.
Okay.
Because it's like, it doesn't really weigh against her, but it doesn't weigh for the plaintiff. The plaintiff simply, she used it all, but there was a good reason for it. And again, he used his own, the case that he was in. And then the effects on the potential market. Again, he slaps Ethan Klein with his own, with his own. And here's the Sargon case.
Yeah, the effects on the potential the effects on the potential market is tricky, because it's not the decrease in value of the work or its market in that sense. It's the amount in which the new work is replacing or substituting for the old work. So I'll try to make this better example. Let's suppose that there's a movie, and I make a commentary about the movie, and I'm a prolific commentator. So let's say I think this movie sucks. Because I said that, fewer people go to see the movie, right? So that is not what we're looking for. We're looking for not the movies earning less money because of what I said or what I did. We're looking for people are viewing what I am doing in substitution.
I have another example, Kurt, that's a little bit off in that, but it's something I actually personally do. Occasionally there's a channel vlogging through history. Great channel. He does a good job, but he will react to another history channel's coverage of a video. And I will listen to vlogging through history, reacting to their video and commenting on it. So he's adding value. But because I listened to his video, I'm not going to go listen to the original video because I just heard everything that was in the original video with the added commentary from the second channel. So that could be seen as potentially taking away from the original creator.
If I did like a commentary track, an unauthorized commentary track for a movie, and people are so wrapped up in my commentary, they prefer to listen to that than the movie. That's not the same thing. If you watch Wizard of Oz and you don't listen to the original audio, but you listen to Pink Floyd instead, that's not what we're talking about.
I do like the judge uses the Sargon of Akkad case to explain this point. Here, there is no danger that SJW levels of awareness will usurp the market of progressive commentators such as "We thought she would win." We're talking about Hillary Clinton. Benjamin target audience, generally political conservatives and libertarians, is obviously not the same as Hugh's target audience, generally political liberals. So I think you have this kind of same thing where you have the pro-Zionist, anti-Zionist thing. Come on in. Moreover, the SJW levels of awareness is compromised. They're right there. It's compromised entirely of portions of "We thought she would win." There is no reason to think that Hugh's audience would abandon her progressive YouTube channel and watch the diversely titled SJW levels of awareness on a conservative YouTube channel simply because it contains parts of her work. So in other words, they're saying that because the audiences are consuming the product for two very specific different reasons. One, as to laugh at it, one that is important, then you don't have this effect on the market. And that's what he's saying essentially about the Ethan Klein case. They're talking to really two different audiences, pro-Zionist and anti-Zionist. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. The Sargon case, I agree. It makes sense. Nobody's going to be confused and say, "Oh, damn, I thought I was watching the Young Turks."
Yeah.
And they changed on me, or something.
Well, they feel like they tried to change. So because 3 of the 4 factors weigh strongly, now this is where the language starts getting a little weird. Because 3 of the 4 factors, the 3 of the 4 fair use factors strongly favor the defendant. 1 was neutral. He said 1 didn't favor the defendant, but now he's saying the 3 strongly favor the defendant.
Yeah, and the court also is making a potential mistake here when it says including the most important factor, purpose and character of the use. Yeah, that was true for like 40 years, but 2 or 3 years ago, the U.S. Supreme Court decided this case called Andy Warhol, in which fair use was obviously a big deal. And the short of that opinion was the Supreme Court said that the commerciality factor had been unduly diminished by the courts in the last 40 years and basically encouraged them to reinvigorate the commerciality factor. So the court says, okay, transformative use is the most important factor. It's like, yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily true anymore. So if you want to attack this decision, that's the easiest way to do it, to my mind.
Question: is there a difference between transformative use and critiquing? I maybe it's the same thing, but I feel like in my mind they are different. If you're giving a critical response to points like, Kurt, you make a video saying Eric is this idiot and he did this wrong, whatever it is, and then I make a video saying no, Kurt's wrong because of this and that's kind of like a conversation. That's not. It is transformative because it's different, but isn't that kind of a slightly different lane?
Well, for this, just to be clear, the legal point is if someone watches the original content, right, all the way through, they're going to have a particular experience.
Yes.
And if someone watches the work, the potentially infringement work, if they are having the same experience, essentially a rebroadcast, then it's not transformative. But now the factors are trying to weigh how much was added to transform it. So if it's criticism or whatever, but how much to transform it. And one of the key things the court likes to look at is the purpose of the work. If one work is for, like in the Sargon of Akkad case, anti-SJW, and he takes it and makes it a pro-SJW thing, then that is it transformed it from its original purpose to something new. And that's what the court said that Ethan Klein did wrong. He said in his complaint that she actually transformed the work from a pro-Israel piece to an anti-Israel piece. Court says, all right, boom.
You're right.
Transformed it.
There you go.
Right.
Good job.
You're
Thank
right.
you. Thank
It
you for
was
saving us the
transformed.
time.
Yes. And then by putting at the end of it, this was, but again, I think you read that two ways. So I'll disagree with Kurt on this. I think you read that two ways. I think you can make the argument that since we're weighing factors, this factor weighs the most. But I think if he's saying that naturally, if you win this factor, you win everything else, that's a problem. But saying that in this particular case, under these facts, the transformative value of the factor one overcomes everything else, because I think that's essentially what happened here. I think if the other factors, the first factor being transformative, it applied to factor three when we talked about how much of it she used. She had to use it all because she was transforming it. She can't transform it without using it all, right? And then when you talk to the fourth factor, effect on market, well, it was transformed so much so that's what I think he's saying. Like the transformative piece affected the other factors to such a degree that he can't win.
I'm going to quibble on one little part, because I think you can transform something without using it all.
Yes, I agree.
Sorry, but go on.
You can transform something without using any of it. How?
No, without using it all.
Oh,
so if I could transform 25% of it or 100% of it. So I just say, because somehow the argument, Nate, you were saying the argument was that she had to use all of it to transform it. I'm like, well, not technically. I think she could.
No, what I'm saying the judge's argument in this particular ruling was she was trying to critique every single point.
Right, which
is
fair.
To critique every single point, you needed all of it, right? Because she's trying to critique the whole thing. But like you're saying, if you're only 10% of it, it's going to be hard for them to say that you didn't transform it because you only have 10% of it. So the nature of only taking a small part of it alone, it can actually argue for the transformation of the larger work. Because because it's like I only use 10% of it to get the whole context. You got an hour-long show.
Unless it's a music clip, and then you're just screwed. Oh, sorry. No, that's another argument.
What were you going to say, Kurt? Sorry.
No, I'm good.
All right. So at the end of the day, what do you think is going to happen in this case? Because it seems like the judge pretty strongly said that this is fair use. But do you think Ethan? So, the first question I want to ask is that in this particular case, the defendant straight up said, the purpose for me doing this is to take market share from this person. My intent is to do this. Should the judge have used that in their opinion?
I don't think that. Yeah, because there's a legal way to do that and an illegal way to do that, right? It's like, again, if there's a very popular movie and I'm like, I think this movie sucks, I don't think people should go see it. It's my intent that they should earn less money because people shouldn't go see this movie. If people listen to my opinion and it earns less money, then, so be it. So it's like, that's just straight commentary. It's like, I'm not even using the work. I'm just talking about it. It's just like Avatar sucks. No one should watch it. And it's a bad movie. I don't know, whatever. If people listen to me and it gets less money for it. So, so be it. So I don't think my intent that it gets less money is the thing.
That's true. But because it all depends on how much you use it. Yeah. And that's what other factors come in. I don't know. I do think because you can intend for it to get less money, but do it in a lawful way. And that's what you're saying. She essentially.
Yeah. I hate these people. I don't want people to watch it. And this is why. Don't watch it.
Yeah.
or whatever.
Well, what about Casey Tron? She settled the case, obviously.
Right.
So let me I'm going to play her
apology video.
Her apology video.
Her so earnest video.
This was definitely a hostage video for sure.
Is that the one she said she was stoned at the time, or is that before that point?
I'm not sure.
Because I think when she was early going on, she was like, I was stoned anyway, or something. So I mean,
no, she actually. Oh, you know what? I'll just pull it up in my video that I did today. No, she actually within her own she had to apologize. I think it's part of the settlement.
Sure.
So let me pull it up so we can see it. So and then the other one she didn't. She actually didn't even.
So a default on the other.
Yeah, she didn't show up to court at all.
Okay, so if you wanted to know what my opinion is on Ethan's front, to quote the great Meatloaf, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Amen to that. Amen to that. But every obviously, if you're right leaning, everybody's gonna say, "Oh, he lost everything. It's so horrible." But he actually, he got
1 2. I mean, there's 3 cases.
Yeah.
He won 2, and he drove the point across.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Online content creation are not for state.
Casey to settle the case. Here is her apology video.
I want to begin by stating I take responsibility for infringing the content nuke. The lawsuit was not frivolous.
I like how I had to throw that in there too. The lawsuit is not frivolous.
I said the lawsuit was frivolous and based on misogyny. It was to garner sympathy, protect my own reputation, and retaliate against the Kleins.
Okay.
That's like my God. You talking about throw yourself on the sword, baby. She's all over it right now. She's just giving it all up. I lied. I was not misogyny. I just was doing that to protect myself. Like, boy.
To be fair to her, and I am no fan of hers, but she went into this thinking that Hassan Piker and his ilk were going to prop her up and support her, and they didn't do jack. So she was left out there twisting in the wind. From what I understand, she doesn't have a whole hell of a lot of money. She is not a rich YouTuber like Hassan. So yeah, she kind of is like, I got to say whatever I can say to get this monkey off my back because I'm in, deep doo-doo. So
this looks like a hostage video. She definitely looks like she's in a hostage video for sure. Yeah, we're transforming this too.
This lawsuit has given me a greater understanding of copyright protection, people's copyrights, and the importance of protecting copyrights in the online content creation community. It is important for the entire content creation community to respect the intellectual property rights of other creators, and I will adhere to the lessons I've learned throughout this process going forward. I also want to make clear that I did not receive any support, financial or otherwise, from Hassan Piker. Hassan never.
Oh, yeah. God, see, I'm good. What did I say?
She threw him right in there. Boom. Let's make sure Hassan Piker gets thrown under the bus.
As he should be, because it was all about him.
No support from him.
Even reached out to me privately to offer words of support.
Didn't even reach out to me privately.
So why wouldn't she do this? That's what I'm saying.
Speaking honestly, I found his indifference to my suffering hurtful, especially after he hinted he might help me behind the scenes.
She's turning the knife all up in his kidneys right now. Yeah, turn this knife.
As she should.
It felt like he wanted to receive credit from the public for him helping me without providing any. As to the GoFundMe.
Yeah.
By the way, that wasn't the hostage part.
That
was the F this guy part.
He said he was going to help me, but never even came through.
Money to the extent there are any remaining funds after I pay my attorney's fees. I have agreed to pay the remaining funds to the Kleins.
That's another burn too, because all those people who gave money to her GoFundMe are now forced to give that money to the Kleins.
Yeah.
So they're supporting Israel. They're like, you're literally giving it to they're anti-Zionists, so now you're giving it to the Zionists. So wow. This is
that's why I said Ethan really won. However you break it down, the propensity of the case, he's got 2 out of 3. and call it a day. He won.
The funds will not go to anyone else, including Denham's or Frogan, to defend their lawsuits. For the record, I have agreed to cooperate with the Kleins in their litigation against the H3 Snark mods for promoting my live stream to the extent that I am able. I will offer my support, including testifying under oath to everything I have just stated, to help their cause. I also want to take the opportunity to acknowledge other misconduct and bad behavior I have exhibited online.
This is starting to get kind of crazy now. Like how much? This is like a major win. Like she's just giving it all up. In other words, she told them literally, write what you want me to say.
Yeah,
and I'm
well,
going
they
to say
did. She's reading the damn statement. It's literally, she is reading
For
the
example,
statement from the lawyers.
Oh yeah.
Recognizing the death of Asmongold's mother was inexcusable. I should know better because I have 3 disabled people that rely on me. Moving forward, I will do better. I also want to apologize to the crew of the H3 podcast, particularly AB and Olivia. I apologize for calling them cowards for not quitting their jobs.
So they're cowards for not quitting their jobs. She got them. They got Asmongold in this thing too, right? She's apologizing to him. This is brutal. I think her case must have been weak because
it was a horrible
that was
case.
A shameful attack.
Yeah.
Attack on 2 people who deeply care about Palestine and Palestinian people.
Hold on.
AB,
you say this is how bad her case was. Remember, they did the count. She did more inhales of weed than words. Remember that? She inhaled more frequently than she actually spoke in the video. It was so awful.
Yeah. So where Denham's is, she has the whole the argument that she started. She was arguing with the chat and all that stuff. This woman doesn't have that argument. This essentially was a rebroadcast. She put the video up and smoked while watching it.
Yeah.
She doesn't have an argument.
Of the H3 podcast, particularly AB and Olivia. I apologize for calling them cowards for not quitting their jobs. That was a shameful attack on 2 people who deeply care about Palestine and Palestinian people. AB, along with his wife Lena, have done more than I have ever done for the Palestinian people.
Like, all right. You do statement analysis, but this is like,
there's nothing to analyze. She's reading a lawyer's written statement.
But
I mean,
the crazy part of this, though, what she just said, they have done more than I have ever done for Palestinian causes.
Right. That was written for. Read this. Okay. Read this. I mean, like I said, it's a statement written by probably Ethan Klein's lawyers. Everybody got their little piece in there, and they're like, here you go. Enjoy.
Including raising over $100,000 in charity. I recognize that they have actually made Palestinian lives better, and my online antagonism and trolling has not. I apologize to Ethan and Gila personally. I have said extremely mean and cruel things about both of them, particularly my misogynistic attacks against Gila that never should have been said. I also want to acknowledge the pervasive problem of anti-Semitism in leftist spaces. It should concern all of us. I condemn it and will not participate in it. To that end, I wish the Klein's success in enforcing TED Entertainment's copyright and protecting the legal rights of online content creators.
So that's it. Now, I'll show you the difference with her case, why I think she had to do this hostage statement. So I got the count right here. Here it is.
I'm trying to follow, but I've lost the plot. To give you an idea, the majority of her commentary comes down to this.
I don't understand this bit that he's doing.
He's read more books than you could ever imagine.
CPM's coming out of Qatar.
Yeah.
You kids love anime, right?
He's read more books than you could ever imagine.
What is happening? I'm trying to follow. I've lost the plot.
They do musicals. They're very musical people.
That's her reaction.
Yeah, this is where I said earlier in an earlier video, it's like, let's put aside the legal analysis for just a second. It's like we need to have an intervention. Girl, what you doing? Stop.
Stoned out of her mind. She just played the full thing. And the only time she says, I don't know what's even going on. Take another hit. Oh my God. Oh my God. So her case wasn't the same, right? As the other. Something she had a little less, she can't tell the court. Well, hey, I was choking to death while I was watching it. Ah, man.
I agree.
Yeah, this doesn't really have much to do with the video. If she was watching Reefer Madness, maybe. Not this video though.
Yeah, but what do you guys think about that hostage video? Because I think like that was unbelievable.
That's pretty hostagey. It's pretty hostagey.
It's pretty hostage. It's a full hostage video. I'm giving away the money so don't forget who we're talking to.
The only thing that's not hostagey about it is she's not holding up a copy of USA Today. To establish proof of life.
But think about how bad this is, though.
Yeah.
Not only so she's anti-Israel, right? Israel doesn't exist, all that stuff. Then the Klein czar, Israel exists. Even though we feel bad for the Palestinians, we love Israel. So now the anti-Israel people give her all this money to fight this lawsuit. She goes and settles and says, guess what? The extra money you've given me, I'm giving it to them.
Mm-hmm.
And also all the stuff I've been saying is BS. All the stuff I've been doing is BS. I'm calling out all these, this anti-Semitism over here. Like total 180. How does she go forward from this?
I mean, I honestly, in a weird way, I started to pity her, and I think you did too. It's like it was such a strong, one-sided encounter that it was like, okay, she actually was beaten down and is being pummeled in that statement. So I don't know, maybe that actually helps her because everybody's, feeling sorry for her. Like, she's obviously down for the count and out. And what are you going to do? What more can you do to this person than the humiliation that she's under? And also what she said about Hassan, I think is really behind a lot of it. Is, like she did all this stuff for this guy, and she might even have a crush on the guy for all I know. I have no idea, but he completely wrote her off, used her in her opinion, and kind of trashed her. So I think she just kind of gave up. Like, you know what? Fine. I don't care. I don't care about anything. I don't support anything this guy did and these people do because they're leaving me hanging out here twisty in the wind. So
they left her out
give
to
me a
dry.
statement. I'll read it all.
They literally left her out to dry. And I feel, but I think she did put herself because she went hard in the paint. She was going hard in the paint. Let's not pretend, So and I think she got caught up. And at the end of the day, Hassan's making millions and millions of dollars. It's not like he's trying to help her out, Yeah. So I don't know. I still don't know. At the end of the day, what do you do? Right. At the end of the day, what do you do? And I think she had to look out for herself. But I think it's going to be hard to go back to the same community that you've built, essentially on anti-Semitism.
Well, I haven't looked at her channel. Has she lost subscribers? Did she gain any? Did she actually suffer anything? I mean, it's been a while. I forgot about the case except for the new judgment. Otherwise, everybody's moved on.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So let's move on to bricks and minifigs,
which somehow blew up, and I missed. Everyone's done a video at this point. Legal Eagle did. Everyone's done a video on this story. I guess I chose a hell of a time to go on vacation.
Even I've
Lego
been
story,
on a video.
apparently.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's a fascinating story because, like, the story to me about the Legos is one aspect of it, but I'm less interested in that and more interested in the police. The police. Sorry, sometimes words just kind of just can't come out. I know what I want to say.
No, I understand.
Corruption. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, it's sometimes it gets difficult. All right, so the police corruption is the thing that interests me the most because it seems like the police went out of their way to try to make this kid suffer. Pretextual stops, like all this stuff. And there were even times, for instance, like during a stop. For those of you who don't know, if the police stop you on a traffic violation, and then they can't just turn that traffic violation, they can't hold you for 2 hours to wait for a police dog to come. That violates the Constitution. I forgot the name. What the name of the case? I think was Rodriguez or something like that. It was
something like that.
Case where the police, they pulled somebody over and they held them for an hour until like a drug dog came, and the drug dog sniffed, and guess what? They found drugs. Great, but the Supreme Court said that was a seizure. You seized him before you had probable cause, and essentially it's over, right? You seized him before you had probable cause, and because you did that, none of that evidence can be used. So now the rule is, if you get stopped with a cop with a police dog in the car, you're screwed, because the police can only hold you for a reasonable amount of time to give you the traffic infraction. After that, all bets are off. But in the reckless Ben case, the police are on body cam, because the unredacted body cam footage was let out. The police were on camera saying, we're doing this to scare him. So they're holding him to scare him, essentially violating that principle. And you have a lot of different stuff that's going on too.
Yep.
Let me play I think Reckless Ben says it best. So I'm going to play his video of him introducing what happened. Here it is. Yeah. This is the best one. And we can go through parts of this while we talk about the update, because there has been an update to this case. For instance, Bricks and Minifigs has essentially said, we're going to pay this guy out and they're going to squash it, but I think it's too little too late. So here is the opening to Reckless Ben's video, so we could just all be on the same page. If people, and this is for people who have never seen this.
Including all of us right now.
Oh, sorry. Got to switch this up.
Just patiently waiting here.
Two guys to steal the world's largest Star Wars Lego collection.
Here we go.
Third floor. Stand up. Step outside, everybody. Don't move. This is the story of how I got swatted, all because of Legos. The whole thing started with me investigating a Lego company called Bricks and Minifigs. The company sent two guys to steal the world's largest Star Wars Lego collection worth around.
Now, I want to say this very clearly, because I don't want to get sued by anybody for defamation. What he's saying here is inaccurate. They didn't send two guys to steal the world's largest Lego collection. They sent the two guys to take over the franchise, who was allegedly in default. So they were seizing a franchise. So just to be clear, they didn't send two guys to steal Legos. They sent two guys to take over the franchise. Fair enough?
Yeah, and the franchise had possession of the Legos from a consignment.
Correct. And they did not own the Legos. So when they transferred the ownership of the franchise, also the consignment agreement generally transfers, but the owners, but they never owned it. So it was really, they were holding somebody else's property, essentially.
Yeah.
So let me continue on.
Around $200,000, and for some reason, the police are helping them get away with it. The family reached out to me saying that I'm their last hope to get them their life savings back. The video I made exposing them was actually insane. Check it out if you haven't seen it yet. But we ended up taking them to court, and we actually won. When I went back to the store to collect my money...
Okay.
Now
Except for that problem, while you're correcting.
Now I got to stop this here. He did not win the lawsuit. Number one, they sued the wrong company. So the company they sued for whatever. Some people say it didn't exist in 2018, which I saw. Some people say 2021. But whatever, he sued the wrong company that didn't exist. So, but then he filed for a default judgment. When he filed for the default judgment, I'm assuming, again, this is me assuming, he thought that just by filing for the default, he automatically won. Not understanding that when you file for a default, the court then has to look at the docket, sees what happens, and determine if you've accomplished everything.
And even if you'd won the default, it still wouldn't get you where you wanted to be because you were defaulting against the wrong company.
Exactly. Right. So he did
you're all kinds of screwed up.
So he did the motion for the default, and as he did the motion for the default, he went out and told everybody he won. We got a default judgment. And that's where this part of the video comes in, where he's going to collect his money. But obviously,
and that's
he
also not
finds
how
out-
that works, because you need to get rid of attachment. And okay, moving on.
Yeah. But so this is
They
him.
literally shut down the entire store just to avoid paying us.
Dang it.
So
Now, Bricks and Minifix say they didn't shut down the entire store to just because they said, number one, he didn't sue us, he sued the wrong person. And again, Reckless Ben has now done a new video explaining exactly that. He sued the wrong person. So now, did they shut down because of Reckless Ben's actions? Yes, he was trying to get this Star Wars money back, and they shut down because obviously he sued the wrong person. They shut down, and now he's going to sue them again. So that they were like,
See,
hey,
this is why you do things
Ben-
the right way. You get the default against the right company. You get your writ of attachment. You get your nice friends at the sheriff's office to help you execute the writ of attachment. The sheriffs come up, and if the place is locked, they bust open the door and start taking stuff.
Yes,
This is how we roll.
But again, but again, he says that he was doing this because he wanted to. He says he's doing this because he specifically wanted to do it without an attorney. So I think this video, I think it's probably best to react to, because a lot
And
of
he's doing it wearing a diaper or something too. That's just fantastic.
So I did a reaction to this yesterday, but I wanted you guys to react because there's a lot of things that Ben said that are incorrect, and people have been pointing it out online. The fact that the stop that I talked about that was 2 hours, if you look at the body cam footage, it's for 30 minutes. The fact that he's
given what he's wearing, I don't view him as necessarily a reliable narrator. So my skepticism is warranted.
So people have been saying all this stuff. So I'm going to play some of his responses to this because I know you guys have been asking some of the questions that he's answered. So I'm going to let Reckless Ben move forward from here. So we know what happened. Now we're going with Reckless Ben.
in this video, I'll be trying to answer some of the top questions the internet has about this whole Lego thing that's been going on. Probably the number one question I've been asked is, why didn't you just get a lawyer?
Why not just get a lawyer that you like and just go get a fucking restraining order, a TRO to an injunction to prevent them from doing anything with the Legos? I mean, now you basically have lured this queen of Legos that you've crowned into the fucking woods and doing all this crazy shit.
Well, first off, when I made this video, I didn't have nearly enough money for a lawyer. Basically, my entire YouTube career has just been demonetized. My last video got taken down, incorrectly taken down. Shadow ban YouTube keeps taking down all my videos. Right now, I'm 100% censored. Basically, my entire YouTube career, I've been demonetized, and my videos just get taken down for no reason because I'm always going up against powerful corporations. I've only ever been able to afford rent and basic food, and that's it pretty much. So getting a lawyer for this video was not really an option. And if I just got a lawyer, I wouldn't be able to show how corrupt this company is because the lawyers would have just talked it out. Basically, the whole point of my channel is kind of just showing how these big corrupt companies can just take advantage of the small guy. And once you get lawyers involved, you don't really get to see that as much, I guess. Basically, I wanted this whole Lego video to be from the perspective of just some average.
Now, obviously, one of the things that he said there, I didn't take a session with when I looked at this, but he could essentially work with a lawyer and have it be totally transparent, right? Because the privilege is his.
Yeah.
He could just make everything transparent. He can film everything and put everything out there. Here's our strategy. Here's this. He could make everything transparent. So that I think is less of a thing.
And there's contingency agreements too, right? You're talking about a lot of money, and technically there's the value.
Yeah, although to be fair, a lawyer would have a tough, if he came to me and be like, I want to put everything out, I'm like, no, I'm not taking that case because I don't want my client just going out and doing things without, clearing it through me, because they're going to wind up doing things that's going to undermine me. I know it's going to happen.
Yes, and I want to let people really understand this too. Why, number one, all the problems that we're going to talk about is essentially the problems that could have been avoided if he consulted an attorney. He didn't have to hire an attorney. He could have consulted an attorney and said, hey, this is my situation. I want to sue in small claims court. Can you consult me on what to do? And that's more than fine. You pay them maybe a couple, maybe some cash, and they'll say, well, if you go to a small claims court and you want to represent yourself, here are the steps, here are the manuals. This is what you should do. You got to serve the right way and just walk you through the process. But the court itself can't give you legal advice. So you could use a lawyer in a very limited circumstance like that. So it's not like this all or nothing campaign. And I think a lot of the problems that he ran into was because he was ignorant of the legal system. And for instance, like suing the wrong LLC. Here he is explaining that.
One thing they always point to is that I sued a fake LLC and this whole lawsuit was completely fake. A lot of people on the internet went out and started looking up the court records, and they saw that I sued a company called L2 Bricks LLC when the company I should have sued was Baker Bricks LLC.
As well as some of like the claims you made about the small claims court default judgment victory, things like that. All of that is what's now being thrown into a bit of disarray. I'm curious to see Ben's response to it, to give his side of things on that conversation now.
So after we got the 10 people that were down to sue Bricks and Minifigs, I looked up what LLC we should sue them for. When I looked them up on the Oregon Business Registry website, there was no LLC for this address. I mean, there was like Bricks L2 LLC that ended in 2024 when corporate took over the store, but then they didn't add a new LLC after that. And I was like, what the heck? So I called the court, and the court told me, oh, I guess there's no LLC for this company. If that's the case, then you just sue the previous LLC and the whole court thing will still work.
So Kurt, why won't that work? Because you're shaking your head no.
Because if they don't have an associated LLC, then just sue the company. Sue them because they're not a protected LLC. It's like if they don't have a registered business entity, just sue the business in their business name at their address.
And if you know the corporate took over, just sue corporate.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
Also, the problem here is that the entity is closed. Now, he's saying 2024, but if you look it up online, one source says 2021, something says 2018. But whatever it is, he sued after it was dissolved. So in that particular instance, the court says, well, sue that dissolved LLC. But that doesn't make sense because you're essentially suing nothing. Right. So his explanation doesn't make sense. If it dissolved and they said, well, just sue the last LLC, well, that doesn't make any sense.
You're suing something that doesn't exist.
Yeah, who are you suing? You could sue the individuals who made up the LLC, but you're suing a company that legally doesn't exist anymore. So, and this is why you should get legal advice, right? This is why you can't, and the court can't give you legal advice.
Yeah.
Basically, if I sue the LLC, then since that was the last LLC at that address, then I will technically be suing that company that's operating out of that address since that was the last LLC.
Oh, sorry. Gotta put this up again. All right. Sorry. Here is.
So it's okay. I can hear it. Just people that want to watch this.
Yep.
LLC at that address, then they didn't add a new LLC after that. And I was like, what the heck? So I called the court, and the court told me, oh, I guess there's no LLC for this company. If that's the case, then you just sue the previous LLC and the whole court thing will still work. So basically, if I sue the LLC, then since that was the last LLC at that address, then I will technically be suing that company that's operating out of that address since that was the last LLC that was there. So this whole thing happens. We sue, they never don't answer. We get motion for.
But now I do want to ask you guys this too. Logically, that doesn't work.
No,
because if the previous LLC, let's say it was a gym.
Yeah.
And then they turn the store into a Bricks and Minifigs.
Exactly.
And you say, I'm going to sue the Bricks and Minifigs. And they'll say, well, the last LLC there was this gym.
Yeah. Or
so
McDonald's or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. Or Bob's, place. And you don't necessarily need to have an LLC. It's probably a good idea, but you can open a business in your own name. Just Kurt Mueller doing business as.
Yeah, it just happens that the previous LLC was associated with Bricks and Minifigs.
Yeah,
but it could have been associated. It could have been a Starbucks, for instance.
Yes.
Right. So it's just like people like hearing that. It almost makes it. I don't want to say scam alert, but it almost seems like that doesn't seem. And the court told him to do that.
Well, he claims that. He claims that. So I don't know.
Seem accurate. I would be ringing the bullshit meter if it's like, well, hold on, you sued the wrong LLC and this, and yeah, it just doesn't work. But again, I'm saying he may be naive to the whole situation, but now you're really stretching like how naive you really got to be.
Well, it's based on an address, Nate, is what you're saying, and that's why your gym analogy works. Or if we're just going to take people, I rented an apartment until 2024, and I did something to somebody or whatever it might be. you move into the apartment, so they sue you because you're the guy in the apartment. It just doesn't even make sense. Or let's say you do something. I don't know.
They say he may have misunderstood what the court was
He
talking
might
about.
have. Absolutely.
And I'm agreeing with that, but I'm saying logically, if you even just stop and just think for a second about it, what, if this company, number one, so you're telling me to sue a company that doesn't exist? Like that's at the point of it, that's what it comes down to. Who do you serve?
Yeah.
The company doesn't think, who do you serve? Who am I serving process to? Let me take down a couple of these super chats that have come in. I despise how people see this as a race. This is from the
last story.
My last story, yeah. Since deadly force is an extreme sliding scale of self-defense, learn restraint, agreed, but I think I may have read that already. Track team, co-ed, boys and girls practice bench together, easily 40 plus kids for all the events. Tent is akin to a football bench. Yes, that's when we're talking about the Karmelo Anthony case, about how even though it's a public park, if you have a tent up, that you be under your tent. Thanks for this live. Thank you, Christina. Love you, Nate. God bless. Thank you so much. And what do you think about the life sentence and equivalence automatically converting to death and the termination of all appeal pathways? I don't agree with that at all. Sorry. I don't know, maybe Kurt may, but I don't agree with that. And this one, would the cops' actions conspiring with Bricks and Minifigs, knowingly leaving out information, be considered a Brady violation? Well,
no, I don't think so. I think
a Brady violation would be if the prosecutor
doesn't
turn over exculpatory evidence to the defense.
Right,
So if the cops have redacted exculpatory evidence, then the prosecutor goes to trial, the prosecutor would be responsible for getting that evidence and turning it over to the defense, because the prosecutor
there's no criminal case.
Police. Yeah, go ahead.
There's no criminal case yet.
Yes. So now,
it's premature to talk about Brady because there's nothing to turn over because there's no criminal case yet.
Well, there is a criminal. They have charged them, so I'm assuming that, but we're not at the discovery phase. I think that would probably be more.
Yeah,
we're not.
Fair enough. Like even if their charge is pending, that material has to be disclosed within certain windows that may not have happened yet. So
yeah. So I think if we're talking about a Brady violation, we are talking too early. But again, we'll see what happens in discovery, because in discovery, he is definitely going to be able to get the unredacted version, especially the parts where the cops are saying, we don't think there's a crime here. That's going to be highly. That's definitely going to work toward his whether he is culpable or not, and whether he is he's not guilty.
Default judgment.
Since they didn't respond, you can move forward with a motion for default judgment.
At this point, I'm like, dude, this is the exact same thing that happened to me.
Now, hold on, I'm gonna go back. So this is what he says happened in this one, but then so
this whole thing happens. We sue. They never don't answer. We get motion for default judgment.
Since they didn't respond, you can move forward with a motion for default judgment.
At this point, I'm like, dude, this is the exact same thing that happened to me in the last video in my Lucifer Valentine documentary. I basically take this person who's like torturing all these people, and I take him to small claims court. He was too afraid to show up, and I won motion for default judgment, and it was 6. So I'm like, dang, this is just the exact same thing that happened in the last video. So I called my friends. I'm like, dude, we won the court case. Let's go collect our money, And basically, Brian called me, and he's like, dude, I hear that Bricks and Minifigs, like someone said that they're like packing up all their inventory. Like you might want to go up soon, because if you don't go up soon, they might close down their store. So Lydia actually called the store and to see if they were planning on closing, basically pretending to be a parent, being like, hey, my kid's birthday is like in like 3 days. Like, can we do a birthday party here? Just to make sure that the store wasn't closing.
Hi, how are you? I'm thinking about booking a children's birthday on March 19th. I was wondering if I could reserve that date.
On March 19th, Thursday?
Yeah.
Okay, and what time?
I'm thinking about like around 4 p.m. I just want to make sure the date is available.
So they go ahead and say they're not closing.
So I called back Brian, and he still really made it seem like they are actually getting ready to close down this store. The plan was I wanted to like fly out all of my friends. I got like 10 Speedos, and we were all going to walk in Speedos holding piggy banks. It was like the most epic ending ever I had planned. It was going to be sick, but I had to go up there just by myself, I guess. And I was like, at least I'll just get footage of them. Like, I don't know what I was going to do. I was like, hey, we're filing motion for default judgment. Like how can we settle this? Just type of thing, just kind of like trying to get some ending for the video, because at this point the video is like an hour and a half long. I'm like, I just need to come up with some type of clip to end this. And so I go up there, and then the store's permanently closed. And it said temporarily closed on the window, but then we talked to the people at Tan Republic next to us, and they're like, oh, no, they permanently closed down the store. I'm like, okay, sick. So literally the next day, I go from Oregon to Utah, and I'm like, I'm just going to talk to Josh to see why he closed down the store, and maybe sue him again personally, And so I did the whole thing where I'm like, hey, we sued you guys. We won. You guys closed down the store to avoid paying us. And so basically we filmed the whole Utah thing where we get raided. All this crazy stuff happens. A couple weeks later, I get a notice in the mail that says that my court case has been dismissed. And I'm like, what the heck? I guess it's just because of they closed down the stores. That's why it got dismissed,
So to be fair, he made the video before he found out that his case was actually dismissed. So so essentially, it's like we're saying, he filed for the default judgment. He thought that was the win in and of itself, and then he didn't. He didn't realize that he hadn't won yet.
Yep.
So now it's fast forward present day, and I got on a call with Crystal, and she told me that basically what happened is, I guess Bricks and Minifigs had an addition added on, I guess, which so the store was small, and then they added a new room, and so they put their LLC in this new addition space, which I guess technically is a separate address, but it's not listed on Google or anything. That's a separate address.
So then Josh and Brandon made Bricks L2 LLC.
I don't remember what the name of it was, but if you go onto I just looked the other day. If you go onto the Oregon Secretary of State website, you can.
So it said
type it in.
So it said at the River Road address. I put in the address and it said L2 Bricks LLC.
So just so everybody understands, at this strip mall, there was a small Bricks and Minifigs. They bought the store next door, knocked down the wall, and started using the address for the store next door.
Right.
So that's why that other LLC was killed, because they had knocked down that wall and said, instead of using address A, we're going to use address B from now on to the bigger store. And now, since they're using address B, all of their corporate stuff is associated with address B. So when you look up address A, it's going to show that defunct LLC. But if they'd have looked up address B, they would have seen everything. And
but that's his problem, not theirs.
Exactly. Even though he's trying to sue them, he just, he made a mistake. But again, and if you get a lawyer is going to look all this stuff up to make sure, hey, we're suing somebody who actually exists. And the lawyer has to worry about how you're going to serve this person.
Was an LLC there, but it ended in 2024 or something like that.
Okay, so that would have been the LLC from Matt Bauman, who was
Yeah.
franchise owner.
So him,
I took screenshots of Brandon's current LLC that's listed at that address.
Oh, really? Do you think
so
that to me?
And I can send that to you.
Oh,
it
nice.
also depends on what actual address you put in, because the store itself is associated with 2 different addresses.
Really? Oh, maybe that's why it's so hard to find it then.
Because it's 2 different buildings that they cut down the wall in between and put 2 buildings together.
Oh,
so I guess it just fooled the court system, I guess, and it also fooled me. So they outsmarted me, I guess, is what it was. Bricks and Minifigs used some crazy loophole.
Just because they broke, no, you're right. They knew you were coming, and so years ahead they thought somebody's going to sue us, so let's knock down the wall, combine 2 buildings, and then use a different address. Okay, I'm sorry. That I like that. Oh, they fooled me, I guess. Come on.
It feels like a little much. They might have been doing it for other reasons that are not necessarily involved to you. You're not necessarily the center of this universe. I'm not saying that someone didn't get screwed. I'm just saying that maybe there are other things going on.
I'm thinking that what happens is that he's talking from the perspective of this. He wanted to sue them. He wanted to serve them and sue them. But the problem I think that occurred was he sued the wrong company. So that's why he's like, they tricked us, they fooled us, because I think he honestly believed that he was trying to. I'm assuming he's saying they tricked them because they had the 2 addresses. He's saying that was all the trick. But but I think your guys' response is also credible.
Yeah, they preemptively knew he was going to exist to do it.
20 years ago or whatever when they did this.
Yeah, come on, dude. Just say I screwed up. I got the wrong address. I'm going to refile tomorrow.
Yeah, but sometimes that's a hard thing to do, bro. Sometimes it's a hard thing to do. So now the most recent update is that Bricks and Minifigs CEO now says that he's going to work with this guy and that they're going to settle all this. So they've essentially made this whole mea culpa. So it's we'll see what happens.
Probably what happened. I mean, we don't know for sure, but probably what happened is, this consignment just got lost in a bit of a shuffle. It's not like anyone's necessarily nefarious. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't liability, but this old business failed, as businesses do. The old business failed, a new business takes over. So they acquire everything that comes with the business.
In Utah uploaded a folder to the internet.
Oh, sorry.
48 gigabytes of body.
I'm waiting.
There it is.
Yeah, so they acquire everything that comes with the business, including liabilities
footage,
like the
dash cam.
consignment. And, it got lost in the shuffle. And, someone made a mistake. And, okay, now we have to figure it out. But, this guy's acting like it's the big, it's super nefarious. It's like, I don't know if it's super nefarious, man.
Well,
And
they did a lot of actions later.
Well, the police are just trying to figure out what's going on. I don't know what the police are doing.
To be fair,
yeah.
I'm being very critical of him on making up this story, but they did. I don't know if you saw the other stuff, Kurt, but other stuff was done afterwards. It's absolutely horrible, including the new franchise owner, the local cops. They all did really, really, really bad things. I was just being very specific about that thing because, again, I get frustrated when I'm like, dude, I'd be cheering more for you even if you just say, I got the wrong thing. I'm refiling now, but they're still harassing me. But he's not. It's like he's trying to massage everything to be a perfect story, and it's really.
I don't mind. I don't mind the guy suing over the principle of the thing. I'm currently suing my landlord over $45. So, I don't mind being a petty SOB.
But I will say this though about this particular case, what the cops are doing, because a lot of people like the raid. I think when it comes to the police department, it seems like some people are calling it the Mormon Mafia or whatever. And I think less likely of that and more likely of this is a small town, right? This is a town. You have a police department, and generally in small towns, the police departments are part of the community. They know the people in the community, and on, your kids go to school together, that type of thing. And also on top of that, the businesses. I know this is Bricks. I know this guy. I know this guy. So when you have someone from outside of the community, and that person says, "Hey, this guy is bothering me," generally the police are going to more likely believe the person from the community than someone from outside of the community. But I think in this particular case, where the cops go wrong, is that they start going above and beyond to screw this kid. Fake traffic stops, ridiculous searches. They'll have a search warrant for illegal Legos, find no illegal Legos, but still arrest them anyway. The charges seem bogus. Like
maybe the police can be sued on a 1983 violation. I'm currently suing some police in Texas on a 1983. These police might be able to be sued in 1983. So give me $30,000 and I'll figure it out.
I think he has a case against the police for sure.
He might very well do. He might
very
well do.
I think
if he needs someone to represent him, I'm running this kind of case right now. I'm happy to run his case too. In Utah, I'm sure I can get. I'll take it to federal court in Utah. I'm sure I can get pro hoc there too. No problem.
I think his 1983 case is probably going to be stronger because they are obviously trying to. And like for instance, me and Eric looked at the service issue. So he goes to serve. So now he fixes all this lawsuit stuff. So he's going to sue them individually. So he gets so he goes to small claims court, gets his complaint. And he has a process server, and they're going to go serve the head guy. So the head guy says the lawsuit's fake. He's just here to harass me. I want him arrested. So at that point, you got two stories. You got the story of whether it's Reckless been there just to harass him, or you have the story is Reckless been there to serve him legal process with a bona fide process server. So you have those two conflicting stories. The police then go and now you can verify this, right? They went and verified. They went to the process server, identified her. She's a legit process server. Okay. Second, they took the court documents and looked at the court documents and said, okay, is this a legitimate court case? Is this docketed? They called the court. Yes, it's a legitimate court case. It's legitimately documented. He's to be served. Okay, so we have those two things that are absolutely true. One person has now lied and told you the case was fake, fraudulent, all this other stuff. The other person is through evidence you've seen they've been telling the truth. The cops instead, what they do after you get to that point, what the cops did is arrest reckless Ben for harassment. So that's what I'm talking about. The cops went above and beyond, because even though the evidence showed overwhelming that reckless Ben was there legitimately trying to serve process, the cops went the other way and didn't even explain why. They just arrested him just to get him off the property.
Even worse, they confirmed everything that he was saying and then arrested him. So that it's you could argue that they were mistaken, but they actually looked and they called and they found out, no, this in fact is a real court case, etc. And that's why I feel like it tips over the edge completely when they verified, oh, there is a court case. These could potentially be the court documents. The cops could have just taken the documents and said, oh, you know what? Turns out there is a case. So here you go. Technically, you've been served. Now, Ben, you go away. Your mission is done. The person has been served. Please leave. Everything will be over.
Hey, thanks for the 50 gift memberships. That's really nice. Thanks, man.
50. Holy cow.
50 gift memberships is a lot of memberships, man. Really appreciate it.
I know, kidding.
Feeling the love.
So now at the end of the day with the reckless Ben situation, I think when it comes to reckless Ben versus the company, I think that's a whole mess of itself. That civil stuff is a whole mess, and I think they're going to have to get through it. Because I do think, and I know people don't want to hear this, I do think the company, BAM, they have some arguments here for defamation and things of that nature and tortious interference. Like, it's not a laugher. It's not a laugher. Because they've had to close down companies, look at how their brand is suffering. And some of the things Ben has been saying has been both overstated and untrue. And some of the characters that are also involved in this aren't public figures. They're private figures. So we're talking about liability for defamation is a negligence versus actual malice. So Ben has some legal exposure here that I think he has to worry about, because like I'm saying, they stole this. Like that's a real issue. But I think on the criminal side, I think reckless Ben, like for instance, they were saying that he went into the store and threatened people and stuff like that. But every time he's going into the store, he's videotaped the whole thing. He has everything on tape.
Right.
So, and he's turned over all that to the police department. So with all of that evidence and things of that nature, I don't know how they're sustaining these charges, but it's an interesting case because it both touches the civil arena and the criminal arena. But I think for me personally, the criminal arena is more interesting because these charges to me are simply bogus. And it really shows, I think, how corrupt the police department can be. And think about it. Think about this also before I go, because I want to show Linda French's video where they redacted the body cam, but those redactions are legally only supposed to be to protect the victim's identity and things of that nature. Like stuff like that. They were redacting places where the police were saying things like, "Hey, we don't believe this guy's committed any crime," or "Hey, we believe it's true that the lawsuit," like they redact. Those are the things that were harmful for the police. They redacted those things. So I think that also now shows you that the police, what are they trying to cover up? What are they defending? And the way we got the redaction, and one last thing too, I keep saying one last thing. Ben said the police department videos were hacked. That happens not to be true. The police department themselves put it out by negligence. So that's nobody knows why he's saying it was hacked, but it wasn't hacked. And you could download actually all. And then what they did, they removed the link and put, "Hey, this was not available for public." But by that time, it was all out. So sorry, go ahead, guys.
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it sounds like he might have a hell of a civil case someday. So call me.
Well, with that being said, let's get out of here. We've been at this for 2 hours and 19 minutes. Any last words before we end this stream?
Make sure you have the correct address when you sue somebody.
That's good.
Or correct name of a business.
Yes.
Sometimes it takes a couple tries. I had trouble actually suing my landlord. Took a couple tries, so hey, it happens to everyone. So you got to check these things.
Yes. Carmelo Anthony. I believe he's doing. I'm saying between 5 and 10 years. That's what my I'm thinking.
I think you're under
5 to 10 years.
I'm saying 10 to 20.
Yeah, I think 10 to 20 is more realistic.
10 to 20 is more realistic. Because only reason I'm saying that, because remember the woman who shot the guy in his apartment?
Yeah, but
She got
such
10.
a different fact pattern. I think she got 5. And like her fact pattern is way different because she made a genuine mistake. She went to the wrong apartment. I've gone to the wrong apartment. I've lived in apartments all my life. And so going to the wrong floor and trying to open the wrong door, I've done it a couple times in various apartments. So like she made a mistake. Now there was things she should have seen, like her floor mat wasn't there, but stupid things happen like that where you're just not paying attention. And so like, yeah, she made a mistake. There's no real mistake here. So the fact pattern to me is very, very different. So I think he's going to get closer to 20 years. And I think it could be worse than that. If the jury really believes that he was out for him, the knife with the provocation, and like he was there with like basically looking to start some shit. He could wind up on the wrong end of that curve too. But I think 20 years is my over under. We'll see how it goes.
What about you, Eric?
10 to
you
20.
You said 10 to 20. 10 to 20.
Yeah.
So
I'm right down the middle. That's me. I vacillated.
Yeah. Curtis at 20. I'm at 5 to 10, and you're. And the only reason I'm thinking 5 to 10, 17 years old, sports events, young teen. I'm thinking the juries are going to, a lot of parents on that jury, local community. That's the reason why I'm thinking that. But again, we will see, because the range is 5 years to 99 years. So we will see. With that being said, Eric, what do you guys got going on in America's Untold tomorrow?
Nothing tomorrow.
Tomorrow's Monday, right?
Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday. We've got a show, but no, I'm working on the book. Do a contract tomorrow. So.
Oh, all right. Good luck with that. Eric is writing a book about fitness. Hopefully, we can all jump in that. And in 3 weeks, me and Eric are going to be
Anaheim.
Yes,
right.
yes. And we're going to be doing meet and greets. So generally come check us out. There's going to be a community post about it. So you guys, please come check us out. With that being said, let's get out of here, guys. Thank you guys for joining from people on Uncivil Laws channel, Laid Back Law Crowd, and the people on my channel. We will see everybody later.
See ya.